Chapter 1097. I will provide greater support to the Black Star Core. The services and resources you purchase from the Limitless Financial Group will only be charged at cost price. At the same time, I will bring a large number of preferential business projects to cooperate with the Germinal Financial Group under your banner. On the other hand, I am willing to invest in the construction of factories in the Black Star Core's territory regardless of the cost. Through burning money, I will support the perfect industrial chain in various fields in your territory. Sorokin said a lot. In summary, other than losing money, he would also use the Limitless Financial Group's business and funds to help the Black Star Core develop and provide many preferential terms. Han Xiao calculated in his mind. If all these conditions were fulfilled, even with the Limitless Financial Group's huge business, they would still have to pay a huge price. For the Army's territory, the construction speed would also increase. In order to mend their relationship, this guy was not stingy at all. Sorokin had once used a similar method to help the Bloodshed Land develop. Now, the Bloodshed Land had basically completed its transformation and become a strong competitor of the Army in the Shattered Star Ring. At this time, Sorokin was willing to give the same treatment as the Black Star Corps, or even more generous terms. As for the support from the Tyrant, even if Black Star did not say anything, Sorokin would have temporarily stopped it. Business was business. Han Xiao did not deny it and proposed a new condition. Although the construction of the Flickering World territory is important, the Army's goal is even greater. I want to develop in other star fields. Your Limitless Financial Group has huge businesses in various star fields. You can share this with me. Okay. Sorokin smiled on the surface, but was actually gritting his teeth. He knew that Black Star was not satisfied with the compensation, but had his eyes on the Limitless Financial Group's business channels. He wanted to take a share of the profits, suck the Limitless Financial Group's blood, and snatch the Limitless Financial Group's business to nourish the Army's business network in other star fields. Although Sorokin was mentally prepared, he still felt the pinch. He was willing to give so much compensation because, on the one hand, he wanted to mend his relationship with Black Star. Even if the chances of Black Star giving up on dealing with him were only 50-50, it was still worth the investment. On the other hand, he wanted to indirectly express his attitude to the dynasty. Although this way, the Black Star Corps might become the leeches of the Limitless Financial Group, feasting on the flesh and blood of the Limitless Financial Group. The most important issue at hand was dealing with the dynasty. Bleeding was inevitable. Otherwise, Sorokin would not have compromised like this. Although the Black Star Corps was strong, he wasn't afraid of Han Xiao when it came to business. He was only afraid of the empire behind him. After this storm, these lost benefits could be slowly reclaimed in the future. The current agreement could also be reneged on. Therefore, Sorokin didn't care about anything else and agreed to it first. Also, I like universal treasures very much. Whether it's the real thing or the blueprints, I like to collect them. The Limitless Financial Group should have some connections, right? Share some, Han Xiao said slowly. I'll try my best to collect some when I get back. Sorokin agreed without hesitation. After all, there was no harm in having too many debts. That's all for now. Fulfill these conditions as soon as possible. Han Xiao waved his hand, indicating that he was sending him off. I still have something to do later, so I won't chat with you anymore. Okay, I won't disturb you anymore. Hearing this, Sorokin stood up, nodded slightly, and ended the communication. The remote projection disappeared instantly. Han Xiao leaned back, deep in thought. Traveler is a loyal subject of the Star Arc civilization. Currently, it seems like only I know about this. I wonder if the dynasty will find out the details in his subsequent trial. Anyway, based on Traveler's statement to the dynasty, he insists that Sorokin is the only scapegoat. The dynasty will definitely send someone to question Sorokin's motives. At that time, Sorokin would definitely blame the Superstar Cluster Alliance. If I told him that Moto was the mastermind, he would most likely tell the dynasty as well. If the dynasty continued to ask, he would probably say that I told him. The dynasty knew that I was targeting Moto and understood my motives. Even if they knew that this was a lie, they might be happy to see it happen and admit to it. In the future, They would use this as an excuse to find an opportunity to attack the Moto civilization and the other superstar cluster civilizations. As for Sorokin, he might not believe my words, but even if he doesn't believe that Traveler is the owner of the Moto civilization, he will definitely investigate and test it out. Han Xiao shook his head and chuckled. This way, the Moto civilization would be the one to suffer the most in this chain of events. In the future operations of the three universal civilizations to attack the Supercluster Alliance, the Moto civilization would probably receive a warm welcome from the dynasty. In that case, the second requirement of the S-grade mission, Kundi race leader's last wish, should be more or less completed. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled, and he rubbed his hands. He had been eyeing the rewards of this mission for a long time. Proof of leadership, the enemy, and Kundi Rage, a total of 3 excellent abilities. Currently, the Moto civilization was under the protection of the Supercluster Alliance, so it was not good for him to fight them head-on. He could only wait for the inevitable conflict to break out in the future. The news of the Black Star Cup spread like wildfire. The entire army erupted with extremely high enthusiasm, and countless army members signed up. Most people signed up for entertainment, but a few ambitious army warriors saw that this was an internal selection opportunity and wanted to show their strength. Among the army players, the Black Star Cup also caused a huge reaction. The forums welcomed a new round of spam. Heaven is below, what's going on? Not long ago, Black Star was going to enter the entertainment industry, and now the army is going to enter the sports industry? My scalp itches when the wind blows. Big factions are so generous, like even dead will get shot. I feel that this is more interesting than the Pro League. Powerless short. The scale of this event should be the largest so far. There are many events, and there are many participants. Each person is allowed to participate in 5 events. How many competitions will there be? They can even play cards and gamble. I am your blessing. Brother F.A. is passing by with a loudspeaker, laughing, 2 little white rabbits. Not only cards, but there are also singing and dancing events. I even saw someone apply for a crosstalk competition, which was approved by the higher-ups. Laughing and crying, Dragon Emperor Bootlicker. To be honest, I want to see Black Star dance, soaring professional substitute training studio. The rewards for these competitions are quite generous, and the quota is very loose. The most rewards are still the combat-oriented events. The top 300,000 will all be rewarded, and there are no restrictions on the weapons we can use. Speaking of which, if we participate in a group combat competition and use things like nuclear bomb backpacks and evolution badges, I'm afraid we could take all the top spots. President of Fu Ding's fan club. Let me take a look whose wallet is inflating again. Black Star smile. JPG, Bull likes it. Army Commander, this is my team fee for this year. About 90 degrees. The Black Star Cup was still in preparation, and countless players called their friends and excitedly took out money to prepare for this event. In the following days, the sales of the logistics department skyrocketed, and Han Zhao's daily experience increased by a large amount. A large number of players learned and leveled up, and more than half of the savings they had accumulated since the start of the Flickering World version were invested in this. Looking at the daily increase in experience, Han Xiao felt very comfortable. The players worked so hard to earn this money, so if I don't earn it, am I still human? At this rate, his level 340 promotion was just around the corner. However, in order to obtain one more God's Trait transformation point during his promotion, he decided to use this wave of experience to max out some of his blueprints and skills. Sylvia and Philip were very efficient. With the current status of the Black Star Corps, all administrative procedures were given the green light, and the broadcast media and sponsors were quickly in place. Han Xiao specially allocated a few barren planets as the competition venue, and the professional galactic engineering team, called over by the Limitless Financial Group, quickly built the venue. The army members participating in the Black Star Cup also gathered. The process was similar to the Pro League. Due to the large number of participants, the qualifiers were used to quickly eliminate a large number of people before slowly holding the competition. After more than 2 months of preparation, the preparations for the first Black Star Cup were finally completed. On the 28th of October, year 730 of the Galaxy calendar, The highly anticipated opening ceremony of the Black Star Cup was held as scheduled. With the support of the media, the eyes of the entire universe were focused on this event. Chapter 1098. Densely packed fleets surrounded a pale green planet. Colorful searchlights passed through the planet's artificial atmosphere, making the sky of this planet appear as beautiful as the aurora. This was a desolate planet in the Army's territory. It had been transformed into one of the Black Star Cup venues. Countless arenas, low-altitude vehicle tracks, large stadiums, and other competition facilities were built on the surface. They were visible to the naked eye from outer space. Other than the buildings on the surface, there were also floating platforms in midair. Some are VIP seats for Army members of Grade C and above, and some are also arenas. Due to the large number of events and participants, there was a need to increase the competition venue as much as possible to increase the efficiency of the qualifiers. At this time, all the media and Army spaceships in outer space locked their sights on the largest floating platform. There was a podium set up there. Today was the opening ceremony. As the Army's leader and the initiator of the Black Star Cup, Han Xiao would be speaking to the entire universe here. Countless galactic residents of the various star fields in the explored universe waited in front of their communicators, watching the time pass by. Finally, it was time for the opening ceremony to officially begin. Under everyone's gazes, a black figure gradually slowed down like a meteor falling from outer space, accurately stepping on the edge of the platform. With a light spin, the black gilded coat was like a black gust of wind, shaking off the sparks that covered his body when he broke through the atmosphere. Han Xiao slowly walked to the podium and looked up at the sky. The searchlights of countless spaceships in the sky were like stars in the distance. Who knew how many pairs of eyes were watching him through the media? With his hands on both sides of the podium, Han Xiao looked around at the stars in the sky and slowly spoke. His voice echoed on the planet through the special loudspeaker. October 2nd, year 688 of the galaxy calendar. This is the day the Black Star Mercenary, the predecessor of the Army, was established. At that time, I was just a native of a surface civilization that had just walked out of the Blue Star. In order to save my mother planet, I was like an ignorant cub, charging into the vast universe. At that time, this was a world full of unknown dangers, but for the survival of the mother planet and the safety of my friends on the mother planet, I did not hesitate. The speech was broadcasted simultaneously on the internet channels of various star fields. When the Blue Star citizens who were waiting in front of the channel heard the speech, the memories of this period of history in their minds faded away and came alive again. A sense of pride involuntarily rose in their hearts. No matter what Black Star status was in the universe, in the eyes of the Blue Star people, he only had one identity, and that was that he was worthy of being called the great man of the planet. The first Blue Star to step into the universe was a small step for Black Star, but it was a big step for Blue Star. In the Aquamarine Federation's government building, Bennett pushed away an administrative meeting and stayed in front of the television to watch the broadcast. Now, his hair was completely white, but it was still neatly combed. There were more wrinkles on his face, and he already looked like an old man. After holding the power of the planet in his hands for many years, he had a dignified temperament. But at this time, the corners of Bennett's mouth were raised high, and his face was full of wrinkles. The corners of his eyes were twinkling. When he first met Han Xiao decades ago, the thin figure that remained in his memory seemed to slowly overlap with the tall and burly Black Star now. Thousands of words were used in his heart, but in the end, they all turned into a sigh of satisfaction. Fortunately, I met you. The speech continued, and Han Xiao's tone gradually became louder and louder. When I was weak, I encountered dangers and also met benefactors. Along the way, there were enemies who were at odds with me, but there were also like-minded friends. The initial period is still vivid in my mind, but now that I think about it, it seems to have been a lifetime ago. I spent more than 40 years building the Black Star Corps from nothing, allowing it to grow to what it is today and have a place in the universe. I think I have the right to be proud of it. Many members of the Army nodded with admiration. Basically, All the members of the army had attended ideological classes and understood the experience of the rise of the army. Even those who joined the army for the sake of their future also admired Black Star's achievements in the past 40 years. Looking at the history of the universe, how many people could start from scratch and create such a huge foundation in such a short period of time? The answer was no. Of course, some people had greater achievements than Black Star, but they had spent a much longer time on it. Black Star was the only one who had risen in the universe at an unprecedented speed, leaving behind a thick and colorful stroke of his own. In the frontline stronghold of the exploration stronghold in the free competition zone, Hela looked at Han Xiao on the screen. The scenes of adventures together flashed through her mind, and her eyes gradually became as gentle as water. Manison, Kasi, Sorokin, and the other beyond grade as were also watching the broadcast. Even the dynasty ruler Urinril took time out of her busy schedule to pay attention. Hearing Han Zhao's words, these people sighed in their hearts. Perhaps Black Star had some conflicts with them in terms of benefits, but from the bottom of their hearts, they also admired Black Star's achievements. If it were them, no one felt that they could have done better than Black Star. What was I doing when I was less than 100 years old? It seems like I was still helping the former leader manage the military logistics. Manison could not help but reminisce. At the scene, Han Xiao listed the achievements of the army so far, and his tone became more and more formal. As mentioned above, the Black Star Corps has achieved many brilliant results, but its contribution to the universe is too insignificant. I feel deeply ashamed, so I feel that I should make a public report to the entire universe. Let everyone see our current glory and strive to give everyone with potential a chance to show it. This is the reason why I organize a Black Star Cup. That's not bad. Urinril nodded approvingly. She liked to see beyond grade as enjoy their privileges while also contributing to the entire universe. Unfortunately, most people did not have such awareness. In her eyes, although Black Star was also a profit seeker, it was already rare for him to have such awareness. As the speech came to an end, Han Zhao's lips curled up as he said with a smile, "I've said enough. Next, this stage will be handed over to the young lads of the Black Star Army. Then I hereby announce that the first Black Star Cup Army League officially begins." As soon as he said that, the crowd burst into thunderous applause. There was no doubt that this was the sound effect added at the end. He still had to have some prestige. If no one applauded after the speech, how awkward would that be? Furthermore, the members of the army were all in the spaceship, so the applause could not be heard. Amidst the cheers and applause, Han Xiao teleported and disappeared. The organizers of the competition immediately appeared and began to mobilize the players for the opening match. The audience took their seats one after another, and the scene immediately became extraordinarily lively with a boiling cauldron of voices. According to the plans of the group of professional event planners that Sylvia had found, there would be a large-scale performance for the opening ceremony on the first day, and only a few of the more important events would be selected for the competition. There would definitely be combat events. Referring to the style of the Pro League in his previous life, Han Xiao also set up individual competition, team competition, champion mode, capture the flag, and so on. He even took out the playstyle of the Pro League in his previous life in advance and used it for the Black Star Cup. From ordinary people to calamity grades, there was also an exclusive group for immortals. Each group would pick a representative to fight in the opening ceremony. As for sports, entertainment, and so on, they would choose to fight in the more important events. Quite a number of sports and entertainment events were not divided into groups, and Wayne Cards was one of them. Because it was not divided into groups, it had the largest number of participants. Thus, it was chosen to perform in the opening ceremony. The two Wayne Cards players that were going to fight in the opening ceremony were Herluz, who was highly respected in the Army's circle of card players, and Hardaway, who was a deadbeat in the Army's gambling circle. A Wayne Card chessboard was set up in an indoor arena. As soon as the two players entered the arena, they received completely different treatment. As soon as Herluz entered the arena, the teasing and cheering of countless card players could be heard. He was extremely popular. On the other hand, Hadavi had only taken 2 steps on the stage before the crowd booed loudly, showing the most sincere respect to this old fogey with terrible gambling skills. A bunch of idiots. Hardaway rolled his eyes. This time, Haluz looked over. The two of them, who had sparred many times, looked at each other across the air. It was as though sparks were flying between them. They could see the same thoughts in each other's eyes. Fuding and Nero are not participating. I'm definitely going to be the king of cards in the army. At the same time, the other arena had already reached the Grade D group, and the figures of the players had already appeared. A graduate of the Super Academy was facing a newbie player who had only entered in version 4. Thorough. The two of them looked at each other from afar. Remember the rules. When the opponent loses the ability to fight, you are not allowed to continue attacking. You are not allowed to intentionally injure the opponent, and you're not allowed to intentionally kill the opponent. The moment one of you falls out of the arena or surrenders, the match will be decided. The mechanical referee explained the rules at the side. Other than not being allowed to intentionally injure the opponent, there were basically no restrictions. As long as one did not injure the other party, they could do whatever they wanted. However, there was a special rule for the players. If one did not admit defeat, the other party could beat the player to death. In any case, the player would not die. If there are no problems, let the match begin. Following the referee's order, the graduate did not hesitate. He stomped on the ground and charged toward his opponent's face like an arrow released from a bow. This newbie player was obviously lacking in combat experience. Facing such an aggressive opponent, he immediately panicked. He raised his hands and summoned his pistols. The high-quality mechanical suit he had bought from the logistics department instantly covered his body. He turned into a ghost-like phantom and moved around his opponent. His pistols kept firing, creating streaks of blue flames. He was a cannon master. Shield up. The graduate also activated his mechanical suit. A foldable alloy shield unfolded on his arm. A thin layer of energy on the shield deflected all the blue lasers fired by the newbie player. At the same time, his other hand pulled out an intricate mechanical spear. The tip of the spear split open, revealing the muzzle of the cannon. Explosive bullets shot out one after another, chasing after his opponent's high-speed figure, creating a trail of fire and smoke on the arena. This person's class was a mechanical pugilist. Because the Black Star Corps Logistics Department provided a large number of high-quality faction-exclusive mechanical weapons, many mechanic supers under the Army, regardless of whether they were players or normal members, were willing to change their class to mechanic. This was because they could directly purchase the best weapons that matched their level. As long as they had money in their pockets, they could even directly skip the gunpowder weapon stage and equip themselves with energy weapons. Facing the legendary immortals, this graduate was actually even more nervous. In the Army, the players were a group of special existences that were almost deified. They were extremely mysterious in the eyes of most of the basic Army members. There were different versions of rumors that said that they all had unique skills and were insane. It would be fine if they were just immortals. However, in the rumors, the immortals were a group of lunatics who did not care about their own lives. This was very scary. The two of them fought for a while, creating sparks along the way. The graduate was cautious, but he was surprised to find that his opponent was obviously lacking in combat experience. This gave him a boost of confidence, and he attacked with all his might. Gradually, he gained the upper hand. Looks like I'm going to lose. The newbie player looked at his steadily decreasing health, pouted, and took out the Black Star Corps badge to evolve. Roar. The next moment, a mutant whose brain was filled with muscles instantly appeared on the stage. This crooked, muscular bully pounced and pressed the stupefied graduate under its body in a split second, making him unable to move. A mutant with Grade B combat strength could be said to be invincible in Grade D. At this time, the mutant opened its bloody mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth, as if it was going to bite down. I admit defeat. Help, help. The graduate was scared out of his wits. Seeing the big mouth that was spewing out smelly gas getting closer and closer, he subconsciously closed his eyes in fear. However, the expected bite did not come. Instead, he felt a thick, soft, and wet tongue licking from head to toe. The duel is over. Blue side wins. The referee came online at the right time. I won. The newbie player jumped up excitedly, shaking his butt seductively twice. Then he ran to the edge of the floating arena and jumped down, using the fastest speed to get rid of this ugly image. The dance steps of the mutant were too beautiful. The audience who saw this scene only wanted to poke their eyes out. However, at the same time, countless audience members felt a chill run down their spines. The rumors were indeed true. These immortals were really a bunch of lunatics. On the arena, the graduate covered in saliva lay on the ground, his eyes lifeless. He began to doubt his life. The situation that was supposed to be a sure win was instantly turned around by the opponent's suicidal transformation. It's too difficult for me. As long as no additional damage was caused, items could be used at will in the Black Star Cup. The players were extremely satisfied with this rule. In the Pro League, the Army's various powerful weapons were tightly restricted. Now that they could finally use them without reservation, it was quite comfortable. Although it was a little unfair to the Army members in the low-level division, this was the effect that Han Xiao wanted to achieve. He had several intentions. First, it was to let the outside world see how terrifying the players were. Even low-level players could erupt with exaggerated combat strength. Second, it was to stimulate the sales of the evolution badges. When the players in the low-level division saw that the evolution badges could be used to kill anything in their path, would they not be eager to buy them? Furthermore, the evolution badge was not designed to be a one-time use item. It had to be recharged after one use. The third reason was that Han Xiao actually wanted the players to get the rewards of the low-level regions. After all, normal members did not have much to gain from them. Only by giving the rewards to the players would he be able to maximize the benefits. It was like fertilizing the fields. What? The normal members were not convinced? It was not like they were not allowed to use powerful items. If they had the ability to joke with their lives, then they could learn from the players and carry a nuclear backpack. Even if someone really wanted to do that, the referee would not agree. Friendship first, competition second. Suicide on stage was not allowed. Oh, except for those who could not die. You say it's unfair? There was no choice. Not dying was their talent, just like those self-healing ability users. You cannot prohibit them from using their own abilities, right? That would be unfair to them. If you wanted to blame someone, then blame yourself for not being an immortal. In any case, the final interpretation of the rules belonged to the Army commander. If you had any objections, go to him. With this set of rules, even if the low-level members had objections, they would not be able to do anything. They might even feel that it made sense. There was no need for underhanded manipulation. With this rule, the Great Mechanicon would be able to achieve the desired result. Just as the opening ceremony of the Black Star Cup was in full swing, at the same time, in the ancient Star Desert starfield, a civilian archaeological exploration team landed on a desolate planet that no one had cared about for many years. Although they were called an archaeological exploration team, they were actually a group of scavengers. The ancient Star Desert was very old. Many places were ancient battlefields, and there were many mysterious ruins and ruins. Thus, this starfield was filled with scavengers trying their luck. They wanted to dig out something good and sell on the black market to earn a large sum of money. An acidic and corrosive sandstorm swept across the land. In the midst of the hazy sand, a group of scavengers wearing bulky protective suits were setting up various mechanical instruments to explore the underground situation of the planet. A short and skinny, monkey-like member operated on the screen for a while. Suddenly, he shouted in surprise, "Boss! Haha, we're in luck. There are ancient rock formations on this planet, and we can't find anything when we trace the age. This proves that the age has exceeded the limit of my instrument's long-range detection range. We need more precise tests to find out. I'll use seismic detection to get the underground structure." Got it. The screen showed a complicated underground cavity that extended in all directions. It seemed to have dug many puzzling paths. At a glance, the scale was not small. There are no traces of outsiders. The short and skinny member was extremely excited. Maybe we've found an unopened ancient civilization ruin. Or maybe there's only a pile of rust left. Another member shrugged. No matter what, let's dig first. A member who looked like the captain said calmly, "Let the spaceship launch the drill. We'll dive." Just as everyone was preparing to move, one of the team members pulled on the captain's arm. He used his other hand to wipe off the dust on his mask, revealing a young and delicate face. His brows were tightly furrowed, and he was deeply worried. "Don't go down yet." This person's tone was hesitant. "I'm a little uneasy. I feel like I'm going to dig up something bad." If Han Xiao was here, he would definitely recognize this face. This was a famous explorer during the World Tree version. The first person to discover the true body of the World Tree. P.S. I've been out for the past 2 days, so I'm free today. I'll be back to normal tomorrow after a day of rest. PS2. You can also use the WX public account and search for Chi-Pedia. Occasionally, they'll sort out plot guesses and post character pictures. If you're interested, please follow. Chapter 1099. Harrison Moore, a famous interstellar freelance explorer, was keen on excavating relics and pursuing the unknown. Although his strength was low, he could always miraculously turn danger into safety. Over the years, he had discovered countless historical relics and left behind dozens of books. His spirit of not fearing difficulties and daring to explore, as long as he could not seek death, he would seek death, attracted a large group of followers in the universe, who regarded him as a spiritual leader and a lifelight. During the World Tree War, Harrison was already old and weak in a semi-retired state. The 3 universal civilizations were the ones who were discovered and were attacked by the World Tree civilization. They were caught off guard from the start and suffered heavy losses. Because they did not know the origin of the enemy, all the civilizations in the explored universe could only take a beating in the early stages. They were completely on the defensive and could only passively resist the endless invaders. Planets were occupied by the World Tree one after another and used as nourishment. The 3 universal civilizations tried their best to find clues about the World Tree civilization, the most important of which was the location of the World Tree's main body. The World Tree itself was a universal treasure, and the World Tree civilization had already obtained it during the Fire Seed era, so it formed a twisted civilization. All the development of the civilization revolved around the World Tree, and countless people tried to nourish and strengthen this universal treasure. Due to the uniqueness of the World Tree, only by finding its main body could the problem be solved from the root. Otherwise, no matter how many invaders were killed, the World Tree could use the nutrients of countless planets to transform and nurture more troops. The main body of the World Tree was rooted in the secondary dimension world, hidden very deeply, and like the underworld dimension, it was invisible and sealed. In that era, almost everyone in the explored universe was a soldier, and many volunteer explorers spontaneously organized to search the secondary dimensions. Harrison also returned and joined them. Due to a series of coincidences, he was the first to discover the secondary dimension where the main body of the World Tree was. Before he sacrificed himself, he recorded the coordinates of the dimension and threw them into the space storm of the secondary dimension world. This set of coordinates was like a bottle drifting in the vast ocean, floating and sinking. In the end, it luckily fell into the hands of the 3 universal civilizations, and Harrison's deeds were passed down. Only then did the world learn of his achievements. These were the later versions of Harrison's image in his previous life. In this day and age, Harrison was still a young and newbie explorer. His exuberant curiosity and desire for adventure made him give up the opportunity to inherit a financial group's billion-dollar fortune and resolutely step into this industry with no bright future. As a newcomer in this archaeological exploration team, Harrison's intuition was obviously not very convincing. His teammates all had the spirit of not leaving empty-handed. Ahem, they all ignored Harrison's warning. Harrison had no choice. Furthermore, his curiosity had overtaken his vigilance. He could only suppress his vague worry and continue to follow the team. A scavenger spaceship passed through the high-altitude sandstorm and hovered 100 meters above, dropping down a multi-purpose drilling vehicle. Its outer armor was full of wild and colorful graffiti. Clearly, it had received artistic embellishments from this group of scavengers with limited cultural standards. Everyone boarded the drilling vehicle and followed the guidance of the radar. They broke through the ground and dived all the way down, quickly approaching the underground cavity on the map. Because these kinds of underground ruins had existed for too long, the crustal changes had caused the structure to be extremely unstable. Generally, there was a risk of collapse, so scavengers would not directly drill into the passage from the side. Their first choice was to go through the front door. Whoosh! Very soon, the tip of the drilling vehicle finally penetrated the rock layer and entered a cavity. All the team members walked down, turned on the searchlights, and observed the surroundings. This was an underground cave with traces of man-made excavation. It was about 7 to 8 meters tall, and at the end of the cave was a tightly shut metal door. It was suspected to be the entrance to this underground ruin. The short detector jogged over, took out an instrument to scan the metal door, and muttered, "Well preserved, not much sign of rust. This is a high-strength alloy material." According to the rough detection results, the synthesis technology of this material is at least at the star system level, but there is no record of a matching material in the database. Hearing this, everyone became more and more excited. The higher the level of the lost civilization, the more things that qualified to be sold on the black market in the ruins. However, this also meant that there were more unknown risks. "Is there any energy reaction inside?" the captain asked. "Let me see. There's nothing at all. The energy here is probably exhausted. Even if there are traps or defensive measures, they are all disabled." "Then let's go in and take a look," the captain instructed. "Everyone be careful later. Without my order, no one is allowed to remove the shield." The group used a laser to cut open the door, tiptoed in, and groped their way forward. The routes inside were intricate, and the environment looked like a large underground military base. Harrison walked to a sign, wiped off the dust on it, and let the translator read the text on it. The result was that it could not be recognized. There is no record of this text in the database. "We can confirm that this is the ruin of a civilization that has not been discovered so far," Harrison said in the channel. "Today is really a lucky day. No wonder Ah Seong finally responded to my daily greetings for several months this morning." The short detector was in high spirits. "What did she say?" Harrison was curious. "She said yes." "Harrison, good luck." Everyone chatted as they explored. They were careful along the way, but did not find any danger. Only then did they dare to search the rooms one by one. However, they only found living facilities. There was no special equipment, no text documents left behind. Even the energy source and network host were gone. There was not even a single defense mechanism. It looked like this base had long been abandoned, and everything had been taken away. The flames of excitement in everyone's hearts seemed to have been extinguished by a basin of cold water. "It can't be. We found an unknown ruin, but we didn't get anything valuable. Did we come here for nothing?" The short explorer wailed. "It's not a wasted trip. At least we found a new language, an unknown civilization that once existed." Harrison waved the translator in his hand. He had already recorded all the words on the signs on the way. What's the use of this kind of archaeological results? Do they really think we are historians? Someone could not help but complain. If it weren't for the valuable things, who would want to come to this damn place? The scavengers did not have much integrity. Their patience was quickly running out, and they searched faster and faster. Soon, there was only one room left at the core of the base. Everyone cut open the door and walked in. Their breathing stopped in unison. They saw a triangular object about 3 to 4 meters high embedded in the groove in the ground in the center of the room. It was completely black and as smooth as a mirror. It looked a little like obsidian, but the detector showed that it was a metal material. There was a bump on one side, and on top of it was a screen. There was only this thing in the room and nothing else. It was like an exclusive warehouse. We finally found something. What is this thing?" Everyone surrounded it in surprise and touched it here and there. Although they did not know what this thing was, looking at its appearance, They did not have to worry about not being able to sell it on the black market as long as it was packaged. The short detector came to the triangular screen and pressed a few times, but there was no response. He felt around for a while and suddenly found a movable board next to the screen. After opening it, there was a socket. It seemed to be used for charging. This is the first time I've seen a socket like this, but it should be fine. The short detector pondered for a moment, took out his instrument, and got busy. Soon, he modified an energy transmission line that fit the socket. He was about to charge the triangular device when Harrison, who had been frowning, subconsciously spoke up. "Wait." Everyone turned to look at him. "What's wrong with you?" I think it's better to be careful. No one knows what this device is for. What if it's a weapon that has run out of energy?" Harrison looked hesitant. When he saw this triangular device, he felt an inexplicable palpitation, as if there was a voice in his heart warning him that this thing was dangerous. His innate intuition had never been so strong before. "Don't worry, I just probed it. This is actually a precision, one-time safe device. It'll be destroyed once it's opened. It's just that the innermost layer is made of material that blocks detection, so we don't know what's inside," the short detector said without looking back. As he spoke, he directly inserted the plug into the socket and inputted a small amount of energy. The triangular device's display lit up, and a password input interface popped up. The captain came over to take a look. "Can a password be cracked?" The short detector took out another piece of equipment and fiddled with it for a while before saying with certainty, "The password of this safety device changes in real time. We have to connect to the quantum network and then use virtual technology to decipher it. The tools I have now are not enough, but as long as we use a deciphering device with higher computing power, we can definitely open it." "I see." The captain hesitated for a while before saying, "Then why don't we not open it? You said it yourself. This thing is one-time use. If the things stored in it are not valuable, we'll lose out. Why don't we just put this safe in a black market auction and let someone else open the prize? This kind of method is very common in the black market anyway. Can we discuss this kind of thing later?" Harrison was inexplicably restless. "Let's get out of here quickly. I have a bad feeling. When has your intuition ever been good?" The captain glared at him, but he did not refute his suggestion. He ordered everyone to move the device onto the rig. This was the only valuable thing in this ruin. The group did not linger and left with the triangular device, all the way back to the spaceship. Suddenly, one of the team members said thoughtfully, "This is very strange. This is really strange. Logically speaking, since there is a ruin left behind by an unknown civilization on this planet, there should be other traces. However, there is only one result. This doesn't make sense. Could it be that the civilization came to this planet and only dug up an underground facility?" "That's right. I felt a little strange just now," another person agreed. At this time, the short detector glanced at the radar image and exclaimed in surprise, "Captain, that ruin just now actually collapsed." Everyone hurried over to take a look. The underground cavity in the image had been filled and disappeared without a trace. They could not go back even if they wanted to. "How strange," the captain mumbled, shook his head, and ordered, "Forget it. Let's not care about that for now. Mark this planet. We'll go to the nearest black market planet and estimate the value of our harvest today." Hearing this, the group did not think too much. They moved and piloted the spaceship away from this planet. Only Harrison stood in front of the porthole alone, looking at the planet that was getting smaller and smaller in his sight. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. All these signs gave him a feeling that the mission of this strange ruin was to store this triangular device. And the ruin collapsed immediately after they left, as if it had been silently waiting for outsiders to take it away. Harrison could not help but look back. In his sight, the triangular device lay quietly in the back cabin, like a Pandora's box waiting to be opened. The opening ceremony of the Black Star Cup was held perfectly, and the qualifiers were in full swing the next day. The army became extremely lively, and hundreds of millions of members were active on the field, driving the enthusiasm of the entire universe's audience. Because there were many events, every media outlet provided live broadcast and video replay functions all day long. The audience could freely adjust the lens and choose to watch any event, field, or player. Countless viewers held their communicators and watched happily all day long. The viewership of the Black Star Cup in the entire universe was maintained at a very high level. Currently, the average viewership of the various regions was only second to the news broadcast of the three universal civilizations or the local civilizations. The Black Star Cup Competition Organization Department, which had only been set up 2 months ago, had made some calculations. The events with the highest viewership ratings, other than the various battle competitions of Grade B, Grade A, and Immortals, were the entertainment competitions, especially the talent shows, singing, dancing, and talk shows. Countless galactic residents were happy to see the supers, who were rarely seen on normal days, show their talents on the screen. Many talented contestants even attracted a large number of admirers, and the audience on the internet was debating the pros and cons of the various contestants. This proved that no matter what era it was, talent shows were never lacking in topics of discussion. As for the events with the lowest viewership, as Han Xiao expected, they were the technical competitions, such as the mechanical maintenance, mechanical modification, and blueprint drawing competitions that Reynolds had applied for. There were indeed very few people who were willing to watch the technical competitions. However, Han Xiao did not mind. Those technical competitions were purely for selection, to help the army find potential stocks in various fields and replenish new blood. The promotion channels in the army had always been clear. One's rank was linked to one's position, and it could be done by making contributions or gaining experience. The Black Star Cup provided another shortcut to promotion, allowing those of the same rank to rise. The reason why the army members were so enthusiastic was because this model allowed many people to see more opportunities, injecting new vitality into the army. Although the players had their own groups, most of them were more interested in participating in the normal rank groups and playing happily with the NPCs. As the evolution badge shone brightly in the low-level team competitions, more and more players began to purchase this item, and the sales skyrocketed in a short period of time. Using the evolution badge in competitions below grade B gave the players a huge advantage, but did not mean that they would definitely win. The aberrations were strong in close combat, but their weaknesses were also very obvious. Their magic and psychic resistance plummeted, and their arms were short, making them extremely easy to kite. At the same time, they would continuously lose health. Against some psychics and mages, there would occasionally be aberrated players who would be pressed to the ground repeatedly. However, in Grade B teams, the evolution badge was not that useful. Grade B supers had the strength to fight against the aberrations head-on. Compared to the liveliness of the army, the factions of the other players in the flickering world were much quieter. The players of the various countries were all biting their handkerchiefs, looking at the tens of millions of army players having fun with envy and jealousy. Not to mention participating, we don't even have the right to place a bet. Following the crowd meant 5 people. Most people had this mentality, and this effect was even more obvious among the players who pursued excitement and fun. Everyone is having so much fun. How can I not be included? Compared to the faction war incident more than half a year ago, there were even more ordinary players from the various countries who were shaken by the Black Star Cup. With this, there was a new hole in the corner of many factions. Even the Limitless Financial Group had a large number of people dug out. However, Sorokin was very low-key and said that he was fine. The ones who suffered the most were the foreign clubs of the other factions. They clearly did not do anything this time, but they had to watch the ordinary players leave again, and they could not even find a reason to retain them. They only felt like crying, but had no tears. What should we do? You can't do this. Do you have to force us to join the party? Black Star Corps, you're going too far. Even a clay figurine has a temper. Force me again if you dare. If you force me again, I'll really join you. Chapter 1100. More than 10 days later, in the central area of the Black Star Palace, a long blade traversed the starry sky. It looked like a mechanical crescent blade that had been enlarged countless times. It was black with golden patterns, and its structure was complicated. It looked rather luxurious, and exquisite. If one were to look at it roughly, they might mistake it for some kind of exquisite figurine. Mechanical rings were attached to different parts of this mechanical long blade. Countless flexible mechanical arms extended out from the inner rings, turning into various tools that moved around the long blade, creating arcs of electricity. These rings were special construction support tools for the construction of giant structures. They were called giant structure assembly rings, and they were currently connected by mechanical force and operated under the control of mechanical force. The other end of the lightning chain connected by mechanical force was gathered above this huge construction site. A black figure floated there. It was Han Xiao. This giant mechanical long blade was the universal treasure exclusive to the mechanical deity, the celestial punishment edge. Han Xiao maintained the view of his perfect mechanical sense and closely monitored every minute energy flow during the construction of the celestial punishment edge. He was like a chef watching the temperature of the fire, adjusting it at any time. You have created a gold-grade equipment, universal treasure. You have received feedback from the God weapon. You have received 1 God's trait transformation point. Same blueprint cannot be obtained twice. Your random attribute has been decreased by 425 points. Randomizing complete. Your CHA has been decreased by 425 points. You have received 425 free attribute points. You have received Spirit Instrument, level 3 bonuses, +2. 5% basic success rate for gold blueprints, +1. 2% basic success rate for gold blueprints, +0. For percent space wonder mutation rate. It's finally done. Seeing that the judgment was successful, Han Zhao's tensed nerves finally relaxed. This was the 3rd universal treasure that he had personally created. The difficulty of creating it was even higher than the Emperor's Cape. He had failed many times and burned a huge amount of money before finally creating it today. However, compared to the terrifying profits that the evolutionary totems and the Black Star Cup would bring him, this expenditure was nothing. Han Xiao kept all the giant structure assembly rings and stored the celestial punishment edge in the Dimension Factory. Only then did he open up his attribute list and put this God's trait transformation point into the path of his main class transformation, allowing his God's trait transformation machinery to successfully unlock the 5th stage. Yo, this wave of buffs is awesome. Han Xiao was pleasantly surprised. In the first few stages, he mainly focused on improving his production and research abilities. However, after reaching the 5th stage, he finally welcomed a wave of combat power enhancement. The 1x total affinity coefficient increased his machinery affinity by at least 2,000%. Not to mention, there was also the most powerful ability enhancement. The other effects were also more combat-oriented. The abilities of Lord Mechanic and Divine Throne Mechanic were his current main combat abilities. Breaking through the upper limit and increasing it by 3 levels would be of great help to his combat power. At the very least, he would have 3 more slots for apostle weapons. If that's the case, the focus of the 5th stage is to increase the efficiency of my machinery. God's trait transformation machinery has reached the 5th stage. Your life rating has undergone an unknown change. You have gained a new understanding of machinery, plus 15% chance of forming a unique talent. Universal simulation has been upgraded. You have perceived a portion of the power of the transformation path, unknown talent. You have received the first sanctum ability fragment X1. Seeing this, Han Xiaoxin guessed. From the looks of it, the 5th stage of the God's trait transformation should be a threshold, just like how there are bottlenecks in the Beyond Grade A. If that's the case, could every 5th stage be a threshold? What's the upper limit of the God's trait transformation? 10? 15? Han Xiao was deep in thought. He had the interface and could directly add points to it. However, it was impossible for a normal Beyond Grade A to increase their God's trait transformation level as quickly as his. They would have to spend many years to increase their God's trait transformation level. After reaching the 5th stage of the God's trait transformation, he had received the first sanctum ability fragment. He already had 3 in his hands, but there were no signs of synthesis. He did not know how many pieces he would need. So far, Han Xiao still did not know how to create a unique talent. If the prerequisite was to be immersed in a certain domain, then he had spent quite a bit of time in the machinery domain, but there were no notifications. As for universal simulation, Han Xiao was not unfamiliar with it. He had often used this ability to try and develop universal treasure blueprints, but the progress was very slow. Seeing the notification on the interface, he activated this ability again and entered a familiar world. After carefully experiencing it, he felt that there were some subtle changes. However, this feeling was indescribable. The more direct manifestation was that his thoughts were more active than before. No matter what he looked at, his brain maintained a way of thinking that was similar to epiphany. There's a feeling that I'm pointing directly at the essence of things. It feels like I'm trying to understand things. Han Xiao experienced it for a while and did not discover much. He then retracted his ability, tidied up the venue, and flew back to the palace. Back in his room, Han Xiao went online to check the situation of the Black Star Cup. Under Philip's management and the massive investment of resources, the qualifiers were completed very quickly. Close to 1/3 of the players had already been eliminated. Before this, the galactic residents in many areas only knew of the existence of the players and did not pay special attention to them. However, this time, because the Black Star Cup was broadcasted to the entire universe, the performance of the players was seen by more ordinary people and aroused the interest of the masses. Most ordinary people were both curious and afraid of the players, who were immortal and insane. It was as if they had met an exhibitionist. They subconsciously covered their eyes, but could not help but peek through the gaps between their fingers. Coupled with the actions of the players in the flickering world, the name Cancer of the Universe gradually spread and was approved by more and more people. On the other hand, the excitement of the Black Star Cup attracted a large number of foreign players. The size of the army players had been steadily increasing and finally broke through the 10 million mark a few days ago. Han Xiao estimated that the final number of army players at the end of the version would be even higher than the 5 million he had previously estimated. The Cancer of the Universe represented chaos, so it was basically impossible to recruit all the players. However, the current Black Star Corps could already slightly guide the behavior of the players. If he could do something good in this regard and make the damage caused by the players not as serious as in his previous life, it would be enough of a merit. Speaking of which, my biopic is about to be released. Han Xiao suddenly realized that he had not touched Fu Ding for a long time and thought of this. He searched online and found that the movie had already been filmed and was set to be released next month. Because of the developed productivity of the Galactic Society, ordinary people could afford the cost of filming, which led to the proliferation of movies. Coupled with the advanced portable communication devices and the popularity of quantum networks, the low-profit cinema business model was almost eliminated. The mainstream model had long become online video platforms. New movies were released on the platforms of various star fields at the same time and could be watched online. The name of the movie was simple and unpretentious. It was called Black Star Origins. This movie was about his story on the Blue Star, from escaping the germinal organization to stepping into the galaxy. Because of the limited time, director Bennett Laver had cut out many stories and only kept the main story to control the rhythm of the movie. Han Xiao had seen the rough cut of the movie before. This famous director was indeed capable, filming his experience with twists and turns. When he finally stepped into the galaxy, he even left a chance for a sequel. In the trailer, Fu Ding, after makeup, wore the outfit of Han Technician Black Phantom and moved around in the image with a face that was attractive to both men and women. Looking at this scene, he could only think of descriptions such as graceful and graceful like a swimming dragon. So handsome. Han Xiao was very satisfied. They restored my character's image very well. He glanced at the forums. The players were also very interested in this movie. On one hand, they wanted to see Black Star's story being filmed, and on the other hand, they wanted to see them appear in the movie. There were also scenes of the immortals in the movie. Seeing their own stories being filmed by NPCs made the players feel very novel. After this movie is released, It might be able to increase the cohesion of the army players like Pork Bun's video. If it's useful, I can find that director to film a few more sequels. After making a mental note of this, Han Xiao continued to surf the internet for a while and found another piece of news that caught his attention. The Red Empire announced that in 10 days, the Dark Emperor would publicly execute 2 beyond grade as. One was Traveler, and the other was an innocent person hired by the Supercluster Alliance. Are they finally going to show their might? Han Xiao pursed his lips. This way, the conflict between the beyond grade as and the universal civilizations would become even more intense. Although there was still a long way to go before it exploded, the seeds of dissatisfaction would only grow. However, the 3 universal civilizations target this time was not the beyond grade as but the Supercluster Alliance. They wanted to scare away those beyond grade as who were hired by the Supercluster Alliance and cut off their wings. The 3 universal civilizations had already started to prepare for their future suppression. On the other side, in the flickering world free competition zone, the Star Arc civilization's territory, in a remote conference room, a group of high-ranking officials with real power had solemn expressions. The dynasty captured Traveler and plans to publicly execute him. What should we do? There's no choice. We can only give up on him. We can't start a conflict with the 3 universal civilizations yet. Although this will happen sooner or later, we're not ready yet. It's a pity. Traveler is loyal to the civilization. This is a huge loss. The problem now is whether Traveler revealed his true identity. If the dynasty knows about his background, they'll have an excuse to start a conflict and will be the main target. Traveler probably won't betray the civilization, but we can't be sure about this. We have to be prepared and not admit his identity. Everyone was talking at once, and they were all worried. The 3 universal civilizations wanted to suppress the Supercluster Alliance, but it was not as easy as they thought. They were all advanced civilizations in the universe, and they had to find a reason to cause trouble, even if it was groundless. As the rulers, the 3 universal civilizations had to occupy the moral high ground. Regardless of whether the reason was true or not, as long as they had a good reason, it would be enough to give the public an explanation. Therefore, the Supercluster Alliance often kept a low profile and did not want to give the 3 universal civilizations any leverage. Their presence in the universe was not strong. On the other hand, the strength of the Supercluster Alliance was only below that of a universal civilization. It was not something that could be easily suppressed. Although the 3 universal civilizations wanted to suppress them every day, they still had to be prepared. Be it the 3 universal civilizations or the Supercluster Alliance, they both held back for the time being. Both sides knew that this was just the calm before the storm. Around the development of the new star field, they had to do something. The Supercluster Alliance wanted to fight for a glimmer of hope, and the result of this conflict would determine the future of the explored universe. 40,000 anus. 45,000 anus. 45,000 anus going once, going twice. Is there no one else? Okay, 45,000 anus going thrice. This antique produced by the Doge civilization belongs to buyer number 068. On a certain planet in the ancient star desert, in a small private space station outside the atmosphere, a black market auction was going on. The auction venue was a circular room. In the middle of the room was a stand with the auction items on display. The auctioneer was introducing the items on the side. The surrounding walls were filled with virtual screens. Each screen represented a black market buyer who was participating in the auction remotely. Everyone's identity was kept secret. Because it was a remote auction, after the auction ended, the items would be sent to the buyer's designated location through the black market's galactic logistics channel. The auctioneer knocked on the table and said loudly, "The next item is a one-time use safe found by an archaeological team on a desolate planet. This item came from the ruins of an unknown civilization, suspected to be a star system civilization. It can be opened with a quantum network decryption device, but it hasn't been opened yet. What you get will depend on your luck. Of course, you can also buy it for your collection. The starting price is 4,000 anus." A few staff members moved a black and smooth, triangular device onto the stage. It was the item that Harrison and the others had dug up. At the same time, Harrison's team was in a VIP room, watching the live broadcast of the auction. After working for so long, the starting price is only 4,000 anus. This auction site is too stingy. The short detector looked depressed. Black market auctions are all like this. The captain was very experienced. Don't worry, the black market doesn't lack rich people who like to try their luck. I estimate that the official transaction volume can reach more than 20,000 anus. 20,000 anus isn't much, the short detector mumbled. This is worse than tomb raiding. Harrison was a little worried. Is this auction site safe? Don't worry, I'm a regular here. This is a property under the name of Beast Ancestor, Garutan. No galactic pirates dare to rob it, so it's safe. Wait a minute. The captain suddenly paused and said with uncertainty, "It seems like Garutan fell a while ago. No way, you even forgot such a big piece of news." The short detector opened his eyes wide and hurriedly asked, "There shouldn't be a problem with the transaction, right? I still want to buy a gift for Asyong. It should be fine." The captain also hesitated. Beast Ancestor fell, so this black market auction site should have found a new backer. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Harrison covered his face and could not bear to look at them. This group of people is too unreliable. I should just do it alone in the future. At the same time, more than a dozen battleships were hidden not far away from this planet. This was a group of raiders that roamed the ancient Star Desert. In the main ship, the leader of this group of galactic pirates led a group of subordinates and looked at the planet outside the porthole. "Captain, are we really going to rob them? I heard that this auction site is Beast Ancestor's property and is not to be trifled with. What are you afraid of? Beast Ancestor has already been captured by Black Star. His forces have already fallen apart, and he has already been kicked out by the other managers of the black market. The other people have taken over his forces, and they haven't even finished reorganizing them yet." The galactic pirate leader chuckled, greed flashing in his eyes, and his expression was ferocious. "I've already asked around. The Beast Ancestor soldiers protecting the logistics channel of this auction site have already withdrawn. Without Beast Ancestor's troops, they are very weak now." Chapter 1101. A few days later, the transport ship has been stolen. Harrison's team, who was waiting for the final payment in the hotel, suddenly stood up and stared at the remote projection of the auctioneer who had come to inform them. "Yes, a group of galactic pirates discovered our secret transport route and attacked all the disguised spaceships we used to transport the auction items." The auctioneer's face was also very ugly. "Where are your guards?" Harrison could not help but ask. "I heard that you and the Beast Ancestor." The auctioneer interrupted him and said with a dark face, "The Beast Ancestor has fallen, and he is no longer our backer. We can only hire new armed forces. This group of galactic pirates has been targeting us for a long time. They bribed our insiders and stole this batch of goods and spaceships. The newly hired guards all died in battle." Speaking of this, the auctioneer of this black market could not help but sigh. If Garutan was still around, they would have the protection of the Beast Ancestor, which would be enough to deter the various raiders in the ancient Star Desert. No one in the black market would dare to attack them. But now, their old backer had fallen, and the new one was still slowly consolidating the black market forces left behind by the Beast Ancestor. They were at their weakest and immediately became fat sheep surrounded by wolves. They even dared to attack a group of cats and dogs that came out of nowhere. Then what about our items? The captain was vigilant. This black market auction used to have a good reputation, which was why he chose to come here to sell his items. However, after this huge change, he was not sure if the other party would do the same. The order in the black market was very fragile, and the law of the jungle was even worse. "We will organize people to search for the whereabouts of this group of galactic pirates and get the items back. If we can't get them back, then the auction house will compensate according to the starting price." After saying this, the auctioneer did not give them a chance to speak and immediately ended the communication. Everyone looked at each other. The starting price is only 4,000 anus, and the final price is 13,800. Be content. It's good enough that they are willing to compensate. The captain said helplessly. The probability of the black market compensating is less than 10%. They probably saw that our items were not valuable, so they were so straightforward. They will definitely find a way to deny the payment for those items that have a starting price of hundreds of thousands. Hearing this, everyone sighed. The things they dug up this time weren't worth much, and they didn't expect to lose it. It was a wasted trip. Harrison, on the other hand, was a little restless. His intuition made him feel uneasy. He had a feeling that this stolen item would bring him a lot of trouble. Somewhere in the ancient star desert, a fleet of galactic pirates that had just gone through a battle was slowly moving through the universe, dragging their spoils of war transport ships. What a bountiful harvest! Inside the cabin, the leader of the space pirates patted the captives and the trophies that had been piled up into a hill with his hands on his belt. "Boss, this batch of firearms is in perfect condition." One of his subordinates was in high spirits. Among the spoils of war, there were all kinds of auction items. Not only were there all kinds of ancient drawings, technological creations, and antiques, but there were also all kinds of advanced weapons of civilizations. The black market auctions could afford antiques, but these space pirates preferred practical firearms. The leader of the space pirates paced around and observed the result of the battle. Suddenly, he stopped in front of the dark triangular device. "What's this?" "Boss, this is an unknown civilization's creation dug up by an archaeological team. It seems to be a one-time use safe." "What's inside?" "I don't know. It doesn't seem to be worth much." "Open it." The leader of the space pirates kicked the base of the device. As it turned out, opening a safe was something that everyone loved to do. The mechanic-class expert in the team was fiddling with the device, and the surrounding space pirates could not help but gather around to watch. The triangular device's socket was connected to the energy transmission line, and the password interface was activated. The expert took out a deciphering device and connected the triangular device to the quantum network. All kinds of random codes jumped quickly on the password interface. After a while, the triangular device suddenly made a sound, indicating that it had been opened. "Ka ka ka." Then, the display used to enter the password was retracted. The entire device started to spin like a Rubik's Cube, rapidly changing its shape and peeling off layer by layer. Everyone, including the leader of the space pirates, craned their necks, curious about what was inside. About 10 seconds later, the safe was finally opened. The last layer of protection was peeled off, revealing the core. It was about 10 cubic centimeters in size. However, in the next moment, a surging wave of energy erupted with a bang. Boom! Before anyone could see clearly what was inside, they were blown away by the shockwave. Even the leader of the space pirates, who had reached the calamity grade, was not immune. The next second, the area around the triangular device turned into an empty space. The spoils of war were scattered everywhere, and the scene was a mess. Ouch! Everyone rubbed their buttocks and got up. They realized that they only felt a little pain from the fall and did not have any other injuries. The leader of the space pirates and the others hurriedly looked at the safe, but they realized that it was empty. "Where's the thing inside? Why is there nothing inside?" The leader of the space pirates was furious, feeling that he had been tricked. Could it be that this was just a prank? Who put a fart inside? At this moment, the door opened, and the technician operating the spaceship rushed over with a panicked expression. "Boss, what happened here?" The location we were at just now became the origin of a cosmic energy surge. The energy reaction broke through the peak in an instant and burned the detection radar. There is no matching energy explosion model in the database. Hearing this, all the space pirates present were stunned. Cosmic energy explosion? What kind of joke was this? It only made them fall on their buttocks. How could this be a cosmic energy? Just as they were puzzled, in a world that they could not see, a unique information packet was crazily replicating itself. With the space pirates as the center, it rapidly spread out through the quantum network. In front of this information signal, the intelligent firewalls of countless devices were useless. At the same time, in a certain base of the Holy Covenant organization, this was a dark palace. Pillars that stretched as far as the eye could see supported the dome. Under each pillar was a brazier with pale, white flames dancing on it. This was the only source of light. A hooded man in a black robe floated in midair. The edges of his robe seemed to be burning, and wisps of black mist were constantly escaping. Below, Law and Faye bowed and reported something. They were both beyond grade, but they did not dare look up at the figure in the sky. Are you saying that there's no way to get the holy light particle? The voice sounded directly in their hearts. The tone was neither light nor heavy. Luo and Faye trembled slightly. Law clenched his teeth and said, "Yes, we've already ambushed Black Star once. He'll definitely be prepared. If we act rashly, the organization will run the risk of being exposed." Furthermore, Black Star announced that he has the holy light particle in such a high-profile manner. It's very likely that he's deliberately baiting us. According to the information, Black Star is an extremely vengeful person. He'll definitely want to get back at us. Faye also agreed. Although Black Star found a host for the holy light particle, he'll definitely be prepared. During the rescue battle for Hela, Black Star displayed an unlimited teleportation device. There's no reason for him not to let the host of the holy light particle use it. Therefore, that might be a bait. The black-robed man lowered his head and looked down at the two of them. After a moment of silence, he slowly said, "I understand. Don't make a move on the holy light particle for now. The agreed date hasn't arrived yet. We still have time to observe." Seeing that their boss had no intention of blaming them, Law and Faye secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The two of them respected the black-robed man deeply. This black-robed man was the leader of the Holy Covenant organization. His name was unknown, but his codename was Oathkeeper. He was the teacher of all the existing beyond grade, as in the organization. When the two of them were children, Oathkeeper was already the leader of the organization. No one knew how long he had lived, and his strength was even more unfathomable. Even if the two of them barely managed to become beyond grade, as they would not be able to resist Oathkeeper. At this time, the remote projection of an officer appeared beside the two of them and hurriedly said, "Your Excellency Oathkeeper, Destiny's Child suddenly had an abnormal reaction." Whoosh! As soon as he said that, Oathkeeper's figure disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, he was already in a sealed room. Countless researchers in lab coats surrounded a cylindrical, transparent container. The container was filled with dark blue liquid, and a white primal Esper ability entity was inside. The energy entity maintained a humanoid structure and did not have any facial features. It quietly floated in the liquid. Oathkeeper turned to look at the research team leader beside him and asked with a deep voice, "What happened?" The sleeping Destiny's Child Esper ability entity suddenly had an information state disturbance and broke through the seal of the container. We're currently calculating how many entities this information state disturbance will create in the entire universe. The research team leader nervously wiped his sweat. Sudden disturbance? Oathkeeper paused. "Without you guys actively activating it." Yes. We were just recording the parameters as usual, and all of this suddenly happened." "Wake it up," Oathkeeper said firmly. "It was stimulated. It must have passively sent something." The researchers had no choice but to do as they were told and began to drain the special liquid in the container. The figure of Destiny's Child Esper ability entity immediately became blurry, as if it would disappear at any time. Increase the binding force field and reality anchor. Don't let it completely enter the high-dimensional information state and break through the containment. The researchers beside him were sweating profusely. Oathkeeper did not care about what was happening beside him. He reached out and placed his hand on the outer wall of the container. A flame ignited in his palm. This flame had a strange color, like a pulsating starry sky. Furthermore, it had no temperature and burned quietly, not affecting the outside world at all. The attention of Destiny's Child Esper ability entity in the container was attracted, and its body stabilized again. It curiously reached out and placed its hand on Oathkeeper's palm through the transparent container wall. At this moment, Oathkeeper spoke in a low voice. "Tell me, what did you find?" Destiny's Child Esper ability entity tilted its head, and a wave of mind rippled. In the hearts of everyone present, a childlike, pure voice sounded intermittently. Information state projection. New destiny line. Resonance of the first sanctum. Oathkeeper listened quietly and asked, "Is the agreed date still the same?" Brought forward. 10 years. 20 years. Oathkeeper took a deep breath, and without turning his head, he ordered, "Inject the solution and let it continue to sleep." Everyone immediately went to work, and the dark blue solution filled the container again. Destiny's Child Esper ability entity trembled as if it wanted to struggle, but it finally quieted down and fell asleep again. The research team leader looked at the instrument and could not help but sigh. In a short time, when Destiny's Child Esper ability entity woke up, the amplitude of the information state disturbance had increased by 6%, which meant that another batch of unknown subbodies was about to be born in the universe. Although the Holy Covenant organization had already mastered Destiny's Child Esper ability entity when it was founded, the Holy Covenant had always been extremely cautious in its use because of its uniqueness. Among the primal Esper ability entities, Destiny's Child Esper ability entity had a special form of existence. When it woke up and activated its ability, it would produce a phenomenon called information state disturbance. Some random creatures in the universe would inexplicably awaken a weakened version of its ability, mainly foresight. These targets were called subbodies by the Holy Covenant organization. The appearance of subbodies was irregular, and there were no restrictions on space or time. In other words, where, when, and how the subbodies appeared were all unknown. At this moment, Law and Faye also rushed over and looked around. "How's the situation?" Hearing this, Oathkeeper turned around and slowly said, "There's a change in the plan. The agreed date has been brought forward. I'll go get the holy light particle myself." "You're going to do it yourself?" The two of them were shocked. Law hurriedly said, "It's too risky. Blackstar is sinister and cunning, and he's very good at fighting. If anything happens to you, then we—" Oathkeeper interrupted him. His gaze was distant as he whispered, "We don't have to do it. Maybe we can talk to him. We only want a part of the holy light particle. Similarly, we could take out parts of other Esper ability entities to exchange with him." With that, he patted the two of them on the shoulder and said softly, "We've already collected the other key fragments to open the third sanctum, and only the primal Esper ability entity fragment is left. Although we can still perform the synthesis ritual without one holy light particle, it will bring unknown risks. We've been preparing for so many years, so it's best to eliminate any unstable factors as much as possible." Chapter 1102. On the surface of Blackstar Cup Planet number 13, this was a ring-shaped valley that covered a vast area. It was like a naturally formed coliseum, with rugged rocks and complicated landforms. Rows of floating spectator seats were suspended in midair. Countless spectators were looking down at this battlefield, and various media outlets were broadcasting the situation in real time. Whoosh! Bang! Suddenly, two flaming meteors fell from the sky and smashed on both sides of this valley. They were two orbital airdrop pods. The high temperature caused by the friction caused the air to distort slightly. With a click, accompanied by the sound of air flowing out, the doors of the two single airdrop pods opened, and two players walked out. One was Madblade, and the other was Hao Tion. Go for it! As soon as the two appeared, the spectators in the sky cheered excitedly. Madblade ignored the spectators and took out a silver-white mechanical trident. He stared at Hao Tion and said, "I didn't expect us to meet so soon. Randomly picking opponents, anything can happen." Hao Tion was wearing the Pugilist Galactic Combat suit produced by the Army. After more than a month of intense battles, the chaotic qualifiers of the Black Star Cup had finally come to an end. More than 90% of the participants had been eliminated, and only the elites had entered the main competition. Mad Blade and Hao Tion met in the single combat event of the Immortals group and became opponents. Hao Tion was the pillar of the old powerhouse Long Sky Club, and Mad Blade was the spokesperson of the rising rookie Rivervale team. As professional players, They had a large number of fans among the players. Today's battle between the two of them could be said to be the focus of everyone's attention. Not only did the players pay attention to the battle between other players, but the normal spectators also loved to watch. The players' fighting style was very aggressive and wild, and it was very entertaining to watch. It also attracted a large number of NPC fans. Players like how Tion and Mad Blade stood out among the tens of millions of players in the army and gained a large number of NPC supporters. They were even given nicknames by the normal spectators. How Tion gained the title of Steady Boxer, and Mad Blade gained the title of Mechanical Dancer. It had to be said that these two nicknames were quite appropriate for their fighting styles. The two of them were old acquaintances, so they skipped the verbal sparring and directly entered the physical sparring segment. Clang! Clang! One was a pugilist, and the other was a mechanical pugilist. The two figures flashed past each other, creating sparks and electric arcs. As the aftermath of the battle between the two spread out, the shock waves dug out ravines on the ground. Stone powder and dust danced in the air. After playing 4 versions, the two of them had become more and more proficient in their micromanipulation techniques. Coupled with their B-grade combat strength, they were already humanoid monsters with extremely strong destructive power in the eyes of ordinary people. Bang! Mechanical Pugilist had many melee skills, and Mad Blade's attacks were relentless. His mechanical trident created illusions that filled the sky, creating dazzling electric arcs that covered all of How Tion's vital points. How Tion kept retreating and dodging. Suddenly, he saw an opportunity and stopped abruptly. He raised his hands and accurately grasped the 2 side blades of the trident. The halberd shadows that filled the sky dissipated. The tip of the trident was only about 20 centimeters away from his face, but it couldn't move an inch further. Kacha, kacha! The muscles on their arms swelled as they entered a wrestling mode. The ground beneath their feet exploded with a bang as spiderweb-like cracks spread out. Snake Core Cannon. Mad Blade twisted the handle of the trident with both hands. The main blade in the middle of the trident suddenly lit up with a dazzling energy light and shot out a plasma arc. However, How Tion turned his head and dodged it. This beam of light shot diagonally upward and disappeared in a flash. It penetrated a stone mountain, leaving behind a scorching red hole. The high temperature burned a layer of sticky magma. Taking advantage of the fact that Mad Blade's sneak attack missed, How Tion raised his elbow and hit the handle of the trident horizontally, knocking it to the side. He then used a skill. A light flashed on his leg, and he kicked Mad Blade's chest with lightning speed, stepping on him and landing on the ground. War Trample. Bang! Mad Blade's back made contact with the ground. A circular shock wave suddenly spread out, and the ground cracked again. It sank dozens of centimeters, forming a semicircular pit around it. The heavy pressure crushed all the rocks into dust. The remaining shock wave swept out along the ground, and the nearby stone mountain collapsed. Dust was swept up and blown into the air, reaching the edge of the crater around the battlefield. A circle of sand immediately rose around the battlefield. Mad Blade's HP and armor dropped by a lot. He straightened his back, and the mechanical suit on his back turned into a drill and drilled directly into the ground to get rid of How Tion's smelly foot. Then his figure broke out of the ground in the distance. The weapon in his hand had been replaced by a huge axe. With a diagonal chop, the force field generator on the axe produced an arc-shaped shockwave and slashed out. Poof! Pugilist flames covered both arms. How Tion raised his hands and blocked the shockwave head-on. The shockwave that was deflected flew into the air and hit the bottom of a floating auditorium, creating a loud bang. Amidst the excited uproar of the audience, a honeycomb-shaped structure of an ion shield appeared and blocked the attack. In this trembling auditorium, 2 special emissaries of the Radiant Federation sat in the front row of the VIP seats. They were recording the battle between How Tion and Mad Blade and whispering to each other. The strength of the Immortals has increased again. Compared to the last disappearance period, the increase in strength is very obvious. Excluding the Immortals in their infancy period, the first batch that appeared already has a stable grade B combat strength. The Immortals have gone through 3 disappearing periods, and the time is getting longer and longer. The way they increase their strength is different from regular training, and it has an independent cycle. After estimation, if there's another disappearance period, the Immortals might step into the Calamity grade. What a group of terrifying creatures. Thinking that there might be tens of millions of Calamity-grade lunatics in the universe in the future, the 2 emissaries could not help but shiver. Just thinking about it made them feel that it was a disaster. As their strength increased, the advanced civilizations paid more and more attention to the players. More and more civilizations gradually focused on studying the rules of the players like Sorokin. The 3 universal civilizations also had the idea of recruiting Immortals as suicide squads, but the players in the past were too weak to enter their eyes. Furthermore, the characteristics of disappearing from time to time and the uncertain growth limit made the advanced civilizations hesitate. Now, however, the growth cycle of the players had been proven. The advanced civilizations had no choice but to consider the possibility of the Immortals entering the Calamity grade. They were all willing to extend an olive branch and give them better treatment. The Black Star Corps had tens of millions of Immortals, which naturally increased the fear of the various advanced organizations. In the past, they were mainly afraid of Black Star himself, but now there was another group of people to be wary of. To them, the army was like holding a large pile of high-quality stocks. If the Immortals could really collectively reach their limit and reach the Calamity grade, the upper echelons of the Black Star Corps would instantly overwhelm the universal civilizations. On the other hand, the unique attraction of the Black Star Corps to the Immortals also surprised the advanced civilizations. If not for the fact that Black Star would not disappear periodically, they would have thought that Han Shao was also an Immortal. At the same time, far away in the Black Star Palace, Han Shao did not pay attention to the competition, but watched the dynasty's public trial. The trial would be held today. On the screen was the surface of a desolate planet. Traveler and another captured beyond grade, they were kneeling on the execution platform, barely breathing and unable to move. The 2 of them were in an extremely bad state. Claudi's energy existed in their bodies, which was constantly destroying their regenerated cells and maintaining their heavily injured state. The 2 of them had basically lost their ability to fight and were unable to break free. Beside the 2 of them, the remote projection of a dynasty official stood in front of the camera and read the speech aloud. The content of the speech was to read out the crimes of the 2 travelers. Crimes against public order, war crimes, mass murder, all sorts of crimes were thrown onto the heads of the 2 travelers, making it seem like the 2 of them were unpardonable and that their lives were a waste of air. What Han Shao cared about was the dynasty's verdict on Traveler. As expected, the dynasty mentioned what he wanted to hear. Traveler has always been active as a neutral mercenary. After investigation, his real identity is a direct beyond grade A that the Modo civilization secretly cultivated. He tried to provoke the Red Empire, the Radiant Federation, and the Arcane Church, shaking the order of the explored universe. His crimes are unpardonable. Currently, we do not know if this was done by the Modo civilization, but the dynasty will hold him accountable. Hearing this, Han Zhao's lips curled up. Holding him accountable. That's the usual style of the 3 hooligans. Looks like the dynasty has already talked to Sorokin. He guessed that the Modo civilization, which had been watching the show from the sidelines, was now completely dumbfounded, as if they had been hit with a black pot from the sky. As for the Star Arc civilization, the real owner of Traveler, they would most likely be surprised and relieved. However, Han Shao did not plan to let the Star Arc civilization stay out of this. He immediately summoned Philip. Hide your path and anonymously send a document to the upper echelons of the Modo civilization. Send what? Reveal that the Star Arc civilization is the real backer of Traveler. Han Shao smirked. This way, the dumbfounded Modo civilization might think that the Star Arc civilization was trying to frame them, or that Traveler was trying to bite them when he had no other choice. As for whether the Moto civilization believed it or not, he did not care. Since there were clues, the Moto civilization would definitely find a way to verify it. The Star Arc civilization had a guilty conscience, so whether they found out or not, there would be a grudge between them. Not only would he sow discord between the Supercluster Alliance, but he would also have a chance to make a new enemy for Moto. All he needed to do was send a message. The cost of causing trouble was so low, so why not? TSK, I'm such a bad boy. Han Xiaoxin was in a good mood and continued looking at the screen. At this time, the sentencing of the crimes was coming to an end. The dynasty official said with a solemn expression, due to their crimes, the Crimson Dynasty has decided to execute the two of them immediately. Then, the remote projection disappeared. An opening suddenly appeared on the execution platform under their feet, and a fist-sized device rose up. It looked like some kind of beacon locator. Han Xiao looked very familiar. His eyes flashed, and he whispered, the dynasty's mass-produced universal treasure, the key of destruction. This time, a matrix-like energy circuit lit up on the surface of the key of destruction, and a space tunnel suddenly opened in front of them. On the other side of the tunnel was the long-range artillery of the dynasty's army, filled with dazzling light. Rumble. The next moment, destructive energy surged out and filled every inch of their vision. The image quickly zoomed out and became a wide-area view, looking down at this planet from the distant galaxy. A strong light bloomed on the surface of the planet, then formed a dazzling energy cluster like a star, which expanded rapidly and wrapped the planet in it. When the energy cluster expanded to the limit, the huge light cluster instantly shrunk to a point like the picture of an old television when it was turned off. In the image, the area after the explosion was empty, and the planet had disappeared without a trace. Traveler and the other beyond Grade A, who were already on the verge of death, died under the concentrated fire of the dynasty's army brought by the key of destruction. What a waste! Han Zhao's mouth twitched. In order to create a huge commotion, the dynasty had purposely chosen to destroy a planet with the two of them. Unfortunately, their corpses were both extremely rare research materials, as expected of a universal civilization with a huge foundation. After so many years, the dozens of beyond Grade A corpses in the freezer are probably no longer rare. Han Xiao thought to himself. Although Traveler was the enemy, seeing a beyond Grade A being executed by universal civilization, Han Xiaoxin still felt a little sad. He guessed that the other beyond Grade as felt the same. Sigh, no matter how big the universe is, it can't be bigger than ambition. It's hard to find space for peaceful coexistence. In front of an advanced civilization, the beyond Grade as are in a weak position. There are still too few of them. Thinking about the situation of the beyond Grade as Han Xiao sighed. Just as he was about to turn off the broadcast, he suddenly sensed a strange mental fluctuation. Who's there? Han Zhao's eyes suddenly narrowed, and he suddenly turned to look at the center of the room. Lightning shot out of his eyes, and he instantly entered battle mode. In his vision, black flames appeared out of thin air and gathered into the appearance of the leader of the Holy Covenant, Oathkeeper. Oathkeeper gently landed on the ground, walked toward Han Xiao slowly, and said in a low voice, "Don't be nervous. Black Star, don't be nervous. This is just a mental projection without any combat ability. I'm here specifically to find you. I'm very happy to meet you. I want to do business with you." Hearing this, Han Xiao frowned, sized up Oathkeeper's face, and said with uncertainty, "Are you the leader of the Holy Covenant organization?" As soon as he said that, Oathkeeper's feet slipped, and he almost fell. The expression hidden under the hood was dumbfounded. "What the F asterisk CK? How did you know?" Chapter 1103. How did Black Star know my identity? Oathkeeper had originally wanted to show his beyond Grade A strength to attract Black Star's attention and take the initiative in the negotiation. He did not expect that as soon as he appeared, he would be exposed without any preparation. He could no longer pretend to be mysterious. Seeing that Black Star had recognized him at first glance, Oathkeeper's heart skipped a beat. Where did he get this information from? Where has the organization been exposed? He even knows the name? A series of doubts appeared in Oathkeeper's mind, and his mood suddenly became heavy. The Holy Covenant organization had always been hiding in the dark, and there were too many secrets. Since Black Star could see through his identity, how much did he know about the Holy Covenant organization? Would he know about their ultimate mission? As this thought flashed through his mind, Oathkeeper's murderous intent rose, and he planned to silence Han Shao. However, the next moment, the murderous intent in his heart was forcefully suppressed by him. There was no other reason. Although he wanted to silence Han Shao, Black Star was just too strong. This kind of peak beyond grade, a meat shield, could not be easily dealt with. Violence was the last resort, and negotiations were the priority. This was the advantage of being strong. It made others more willing to reason with him calmly. Let's test how much Black Star knows first. If he knows everything about the Holy Covenant organization, I'll have to make plans. After so many years of planning, I can't take any risks. Oathkeeper suppressed the shock in his heart and adjusted his emotions. Negotiating the deal was no longer his priority. In his eyes, the most important thing now was to test Black Star's background. With this thought in mind, Oathkeeper slowly sat down opposite Han Shao and whispered, "You know a lot about the Holy Covenant organization?" "Not much, just a little." Han Shao gestured the universe with his fingertips, and his smile was full of meaning. He had an expression that said, "My eyes can see through everything," as if he was being sarcastic. In fact, Han Technician only knew a little about the Holy Covenant. He only knew that they had resurrected a large number of primordial ones in the later versions, but he did not know the inside story. It could be said that he only knew the actions of the Holy Covenant organization, but not their motives. He recognized Oathkeeper because in the later versions, Oathkeeper was still the leader of the Holy Covenant organization and received attention because of his participation in the World Tree War. However, Han Shao only knew that he was the leader of the organization and did not know anything about his background. Han Shao purposely put on this "I know what I'm doing" attitude to fool the other party, so that Oathkeeper could not figure him out. Seeing this, Oathkeeper was bewildered, but he remained expressionless. "I'm curious. How do you recognize me? Have we met before?" "Yes, we've met before." "Is there?" Oathkeeper was shocked. He tried hard to recall when he had interacted with Black Star, but after combing through his memories 3 times, he could not find anything. At this moment, Han Shao said seriously, "We met in a dream." Oathkeeper was speechless. "What the F***CK are you talking about?" Black Star was obviously joking, but in Oathkeeper's eyes, this gesture was more proof that Black Star knew a lot of things. This made him feel more and more solemn, and his imagination ran wild. "Let's not talk about that for now." Han Shao waved his hands, narrowed his eyes, and said, "You said you wanted to do business with me. Let me hear what kind of business it is." Oathkeeper sorted out his emotions and temporarily put down the idea of probing. "I hope to exchange for a portion of the holy light particle." "Oh." Han Shao glanced at him. "Then what can you take out? It depends on what you want. We're willing to use parts of other primal Esper abilities to exchange for the holy light particle in your hands." So, Holy Covenant wants to get the holy light particle through negotiation. This should be how they cooperated with ES God in my previous life. My plan to lure the snake out of its hole worked. Han Shao thought to himself. He publicly said that the holy light particle was in his hands to lure the Holy Covenant to contact him. According to his judgment, after the previous sneak attack, the Holy Covenant might attack him or trade for the Holy Light Particle. Either way, he would be able to lure the Holy Covenant out. If the Holy Covenant had been hiding in the dark and could not be seen, it would not have been good for him. Now that he had a chance to talk to them, he had room to maneuver. Han Shao pretended to ponder for a while, tapped the table with his finger, and did not answer the question immediately. Suddenly, he changed the topic. "If I remember correctly, you guys just took the primal chaos mysterious energies chicken cough part of its body from me not long ago." Sure enough, Black Star knew that the people who attacked him last time were from the Holy Covenant. Oathkeeper's movements suddenly paused as he realized an important problem. Did Blackstar only find out about the Holy Covenant after he was attacked? Or did he already know about the existence of the Holy Covenant before he was attacked? This difference was very important. Are you sure that the people who attacked you last time were from the Holy Covenant? Oathkeeper probed cautiously. What? You want to deny it? You think I can't recognize you just because you're hiding? Han Shao stroked his chin and said with a playful tone, Dimensional Exile Bullet, Formatting Virus, Advanced Life Form Energy Disruption Wave. These are all the signature technologies of the Holy Covenant. Do you think I don't know about them? Oathkeeper's face under the hood immediately darkened. It turned out that Blackstar knew far more than he imagined. He knew about the existence of the Holy Covenant a long time ago. The Holy Covenant had developed these technologies by researching primal Esper ability entities and treated them all as trump cards. They were never sold and were rarely used. However, Blackstar could clearly name these technologies, so there was only one possibility. There was a mole, and it was the upper echelons. Oathkeeper's mind flashed with the figures of his officers, and he was furious. Who was it that broke through the restrictions of Soul Flame and betrayed the organization? Even Blackstar knew about it. How much of this information had been leaked? Could it be that the database of those advanced civilizations already had records of the Holy Covenant? If that was the case, then wouldn't the secrets that the Holy Covenant had kept for so many years become a joke in the eyes of others? Oathkeeper's mind instantly exploded. He was actually a steady man, but he had encountered too many shocks today, and his emotions were starting to lose control. Feeling Oathkeeper's unstable mental fluctuations, Han Shao was a little hesitant. It seems like I've gone overboard with my acting and scared him. Han Shao sighed. Sigh, these smart people love to fill in the blanks and be suspicious all day long. Even the slightest detail can make them panic. It's not that we're going overboard, but they're too sensitive. In fact, Han Zhao's objective view of the Holy Accord was relatively neutral. He did not have a good impression of them, nor did he have a bad impression of them. In his previous life, the Holy Accord was not a villain organization, and they did not cause any trouble. The only thing they were famous for was using some unknown method to revive a bunch of beyond grade, as in history, and participating in the World Tree War. Although the reason why the Holy Covenant participated in the war was mostly because they were intimately connected, they still contributed to the World Tree War and brought a wave of important reinforcements, so they still contributed. In this regard, Han Zhao's position was the same. The revival of historical beyond grade as could instantly increase the strength of the beyond grade as in the explored universe. This way, they would have more chips to fight against the World Tree. He did not necessarily want to stop the Holy Covenant from accomplishing their goal. However, some time ago, when the Holy Covenant organization came to attack him, Han Shao made a note of it, punched him, and ran away. How could there be such a good thing? If he did not settle this score, he would not let it go. As for whether the primordial ones revived during the calamity of the supers had anything to do with the Holy Covenant organization, Han Shao was not sure. He very much suspected that the life capsules in his previous life was just an excuse to fool the public. In fact, he could understand why this batch of revived primordial ones was an important fuse for the calamity of the supers. In fact, if he put himself in the shoes of the three universal civilizations and thought about it, he would understand what the F*CK, how can a bunch of dead people come back to life? Could it be that every dead beyond grade has the right to revive? Then, if more and more people die in the future, and they all return one day to overthrow our rule, what should we do? Shameless. The advanced civilizations tried to control the ratio of individual strength to collective strength, but they suddenly realized that individual strength could be F*King resurrected. They could not control the situation, and their mentality would definitely explode. Therefore, no matter whether the primordial ones revived or woke up from hibernation, they had to say to the outside that they had been lying in the life capsules all along. Otherwise, the problem would be huge, and who knew what the three universal civilizations would do? Both of them were deep in thought, and it took them a while to recover. Oathkeeper calmed down and said with a deep voice, "We can compensate for this. We can compensate you and apologize for our actions. I hope you can forgive my men's mistake. How are you going to compensate me for my mental loss? What do you want? Let me think. Han Shao held his head and said, the Holy Covenant organization has a long history, so they should have a lot in stock. Give me a dozen universal treasures or blueprints, and I'll forgive you. Why don't you just rob? Oh, you're robbing. Oathkeeper immediately shook his head. Too many. We don't have them. How could that be? Han Shao chuckled. Many of your members are beyond grade A survivors. Didn't your ancestors leave behind any stock? You even know this. Just how much information have you leaked? Oathkeeper clenched his teeth, only wanting to find out who the traitor was. Anyway, we really don't have that many universal treasures, but we do have 2 blueprints in stock. We can compensate you. 2. Han Shao secretly curled his lips. That seems a bit too little. Why don't you make a copy of those Esper ability technologies for me? Impossible, Oathkeeper said without hesitation, indicating that there was no room for negotiation. Forget it too then. At least I got some meat. Exchanging the primal chaos mysterious energy for 2 gold-grade blueprints. It's simply, no cost, no gain. Han Shao clicked his tongue, and his expression became serious. He crossed his hands on the table and slowly said, the deal can be done. We can proceed with the trade, but the primal chaos mysterious energy parts that you stole will also be counted as part of the trade. You'll have to give me 2 primal Esper ability parts in exchange for a part of the holy light particle. Primal Esper ability collector was only 2 primal Esper ability entities away from meeting the requirements. He could use the Holy Covenant to complete the mission and be rewarded with a milestone halo for Espers and the 3rd Sanctum ability fragment. Okay, deal. Oathkeeper nodded decisively. The Holy Covenant had collected a large number of primal Esper ability entities. Cutting a few pieces of them and putting them on the shelves was no problem at all. Although the style is a bit perverted, we're not good people, so there's no need to worry about this. The Black Star Core was now the dominant force in the universe. Oathkeeper understood the essence of survival. Although he was not afraid of Black Star, he would not use force if he could. This time, Oathkeeper's eyes flashed, and he probed, Black Star, what do you think of our Holy Covenant's mission? A lot of information had been leaked, but Oathkeeper still had one last hope. Although Black Star seemed to know everything, there was a small possibility that he did not know the ultimate mission of the Holy Covenant. Mission? Aren't you just an organization that researches primal Esper ability technology? What? Do you have other schemes? Han Shao raised his eyebrows. Oathkeeper stared at Han Zhao's expression closely, but he could not see anything. He did not know if Han Shao really did not know or if he was pretending. However, no matter what, he could not help but feel relieved when he heard this. Black Star did not know the goal of the Holy Covenant, and such an unexpected factor was still under control. This meant that although the mole was an officer, he had not reached the core level. There's no conspiracy. The mission of our organization is to believe that Esper abilities have infinite possibilities and can bring technological breakthroughs to the universe again and again. Oathkeeper began to talk nonsense. This was the concept that the Holy Covenant told their people at the bottom level, a layer of disguise. After chatting for a while and setting the time for the transaction, Oathkeeper left with a lot on his mind, rushing back to investigate the mole. It was not hard to imagine how furious he would be in the organization. Han Shao leaned back in his chair, gently rubbing the back of his hand with a thoughtful expression. He did not expose the other party's intention to revive a group of beyond grade as in history. Firstly, he did not know what the other party was planning to do. Secondly, he did not know what the goal of the Holy Covenant was. If he exposed it rashly, it might cause variables. He had already scared the other party with his tricks, and if he continued, it might be too much. At the very least, before he obtained the blueprint compensation and the 2 primal Esper ability entities, he did not want to fall out with the Holy Covenant for the time being. He would take the meat first, and whether to fight or negotiate in the future would be another matter. Furthermore, Han Shao did not mind reviving a group of beyond grade as in history. Compared to the World Tree civilization, changing the situation of the universe was a small matter. Attacking the World Tree civilization, every bit of strength was good. In my previous life, the Holy Covenant organization should have been working with ES God. Now that I've replaced ES God, I've become the Holy Covenant's partner and the mastermind. Under my influence, the changes to the storyline are getting bigger and bigger. Also, the research on the coordinates to the World Tree civilization has not succeeded yet. I wonder how the dynasty's research is going. Just as Han Xiao was thinking, he suddenly paused and thought of something. By the way, the Holy Covenant organization has a long history and was so strong in my previous life. They might know something about the sanctums. I'll have to ask them next time. Somewhere in the ancient Star Desert, the Galactic Pirate Fleet was stopped by 3 small battleships with the Radiant Federation's emblem. After a fierce battle, all the Galactic Pirates were captured. On the deck of the main ship, the charred corpse of the Galactic Pirate leader lay on the ground. All his lackeys were squatting on the ground with their hands covering their heads. They were covered in wounds and trembling, not daring to raise their heads. A group of soldiers wearing the high-tech uniform of the Radiant Federation stood around them. The leader was a member of the Radiant Federation. He wore an even more advanced uniform with a badge on his chest, representing his position as the Universe Inspector. The Universe Inspector was a special department set up by the advanced civilizations. They patrolled different star systems, and their official position was even higher than the security guards. They specialized in detecting all kinds of abnormal situations. For example, it was a bit like the location of federal spies. The Federation of Light Inspector paced in front of this group of galactic pirates, slowly taking off his black gloves that were stained with blood. He slowly said, 5 days ago, there were signs of cosmic energy surging on your ship. The energy waves spread out and alarmed many advanced civilizations, including the 3 universal civilizations. This wave has never been seen before, so I don't know what it is, Pa. The Radiant Federation inspector suddenly stood in front of a galactic pirate, grabbed his chin, and forced him to raise his head to meet his sharp eyes. He said with a deep voice, "Can you tell me what happened here? It's a safe." The galactic pirate stuttered and told him what had happened. An ancient safe that was sold at an auction. The Radiant Federation inspector's eyes flashed. He pulled up the information of the auction item intercepted by the galactic pirates, and the information of Harrison's team appeared on the screen. A group of scavengers who were either lucky or unlucky. The inspector from the Federation of Light narrowed his eyes and left the galactic pirate behind, leaving behind a sentence. "Let's go and find these people." Chapter 1104. The universe monitors of the 3 universal civilizations were backed by a huge tree and had a huge amount of resources. Finding a low-level scavenger was not difficult at all. The process was very smooth. In summary, the process could be summarized as follows: identity record matching, whereabouts locating, cross-province arrival, open the door, check the water meter, and squat against the wall with both hands. This set of operations was very smooth, and they were extremely skilled. It was obvious that they had done this hundreds of times. In the scavenger's small spaceship, Harrison and the others squatted by the wall, trembling, not even daring to breathe loudly. The Radiant Federation uniform on these universe monitors made them lose all thoughts of resisting. At the bottom of the galactic society, even a small pawn of the 3 universal civilizations was an existence that could not be provoked. Without the strength of a top-level organization, offending the 3 universal civilizations was completely an act of looking for sh*t. "Oh, what are you doing?" We are law-abiding galactic residents." The short detector's mouth was trembling up and down, and the rhythm was like allegro. The Radiant Federation monitor moved a chair and sat in front of the group. He leaned forward, exuding an oppressive aura, and coldly said, "You don't know what crime you've committed? What crime have we committed?" Everyone was confused, and they hurriedly racked their brains to recall if they had done anything illegal in their daily lives. They were terrified. The short detector suddenly trembled and hurriedly said, I'll surrender." "Oh." The Radiant Federation monitor turned to look at him, narrowed his eyes, and said, "Tell me, What crime did you commit? I anonymously hacked into the pay database of a local adult entertainment channel yesterday and secretly downloaded thousands of cough cough, those kinds of movies. I'm guilty. I'll reflect on myself. The short detector stuttered. The captain suddenly realized. No wonder you stayed in your room all the time yesterday. Halfway through, he suddenly stopped. Everyone turned to look at the short detector's unwashed clothes. Their noses twitched, and they immediately took a few steps away from him with a look of disgust. The Radiant Federation monitor's face was as tough as steel, but if one looked closely, one could see that the corners of his mouth were twitching. Be serious. I'm interrogating you. Are you provoking me? You think I'm joking with you? His eyes widened as he pulled out his gun and pointed it at the short scout's head. He wanted to teach him a lesson and scare him. However, he paused for a moment and pulled the muzzle back a little. He didn't dare to touch the short explorer's skin for fear of contaminating the gun. Don't. The short scout was mentally and physically pissed. His whole body was shaking like a sieve, and his whole body went limp. Harrison was also scared. He hurriedly said, "Dear Supervisor, we're law-abiding and peace-loving. We've never committed murder or arson. What we excavated were all ownerless ruins. We really don't know what crime we committed." Humph. The supervisor of the Radiant Federation did not intend to give them a hard time. Putting away his weapon, he projected the virtual projection of the triangular device and said solemnly, "You dug up this relic of an unknown civilization not long ago and sold it in an auction. However, it was intercepted by the space pirates halfway. The space pirates opened the safe, and a universe-level energy explosion occurred. I'm here for that." Harrison's heart thumped. Sure enough, something happened. My intuition was right. This thing is not simple, and it's even brought me trouble in the future. However, he was not upset. Instead, he felt a sense of excitement from his bones. His strong curiosity surged, and he could not help but ask, "What's in it?" "It's not clear yet. We're thoroughly investigating the specific effects." At this time, the captain could not help but ask, "Wait a minute. We've already sold this thing. The device was not opened by us. What crime did we commit?" "That's right. We're innocent. You can't frame good people." Everyone immediately shouted at the same time, showing righteous indignation. "Shut up," the supervisor of the Radiant Federation said coldly. "The items you dug up from the ruins carry a strong risk. Because of you, new disasters are likely to occur in the universe. Other things aside, it's not a problem to convict you of endangering public safety. It's enough to send you to prison." Hearing this, everyone immediately shrank back. They lowered their heads and focused on counting the ants on the ground, although there were no such creatures on the spaceship. The supervisor of the Radiant Federation snorted coldly. "However, if you cooperate with our work, we won't pursue your unintentional mistake. We're going to investigate the ruins and need you to lead the way. We also need to check your flight logs. Do you have any objections?" "No objections, no objections. It's our honor to work for the Radiant Federation. I'm the mechanical expert of this spaceship. If there's anything you need help with, please feel free to tell me. Don't treat me like a human." Seeing that the situation was not as serious as he thought, the short explorer breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly displayed the skills that he had honed over countless days and nights and began to skillfully suck up to them, striving to serve them well. The captain was a little hesitant. Are we going to leave a criminal record this time? The supervisor of the Radiant Federation did not care. That's for sure, but don't worry. As long as you hand over the things you dug up to the country in the future, there won't be a problem. Everyone, hand it over to the country? Are we really going to change careers and become an archaeological team? This is too much. This is basically blackmailing us and trying to make us compromise. Dream on. We will never accept amnesty unless the Radiant Federation pays us a salary. After reaching a physical consensus, the group led the way. Soon, they brought the supervisor of the Radiant Federation to the barren planet where the triangular device had been excavated. They found the previous coordinates. Harrison pointed at the detection image on the screen and said, "This is the place. There used to be a military base here, but it collapsed when we left. There's also a video of the previous drilling here. The supervisor of the Radiant Federation nodded and ordered his subordinates to land. He took out a more advanced detection instrument and fiddled with it, but his expression changed slightly. He did not expect that the detection results would show that there was no abnormality in the rock stratum. It was all mud. This did not make sense. Even if the ruins had collapsed and were buried underground, there should be traces. However, in the images of these advanced detection instruments, there were no ruins in the rock stratum below. Are you sure it's here? The supervisor of the Radiant Federation frowned. Yes, you've seen the flight log. It's here. Harrison was also surprised. Such a magical scene once again aroused his curiosity. He could not understand how the ruins disappeared into thin air. Could it be that it was just a dream for them to come here to dig up something? But the unearthed device was a real thing, and there was something strange about it. Just as he was imagining things, the supervisor of the Radiant Federation next to him seemed to have thought of something. His expression changed, and he muttered to himself, "This phenomenon, could it be that the high-dimensional information state interferes with reality?" Harrison was about to turn his head and ask, but he saw the supervisor of the Radiant Federation leave the few people behind, run to the side, and hurriedly report to his superior. Seeing the serious expression of the other party, Harrison had a bad feeling. It seemed that the severity of the problem was beyond his imagination. On the other side, at the base of the Holy Covenant organization, Law and Faye received the notice and came to the Dark Palace again to meet Oathkeeper. "You're here." In the air, Oathkeeper's figure was floating, and he lowered his head and spoke lightly with a cold tone. His voice was oppressive and strong mental fluctuations. Law and Faye paused, and they were surprised. The two of them had known Oathkeeper for a long time and knew his behavior better. This kind of behavior was obviously angry, and it had not happened for a long time. The two of them could not help but look at each other and communicate with their eyes. Law, doubtful eyes boss's mood doesn't seem right. Faye, blinking eyes, maybe the deal with Black Star didn't go through. Law, frowning, this shouldn't make boss angry, right? There must be another reason. Faye, curious eyes, then what's the reason? Law, rolling eyes, do you think you can understand such complicated content with your eyes? Faye, squinting eyes, make sense. The two of them exchanged glances, then bowed to Oathkeeper and asked, "Leader, what's the matter? Black Star knows our details." Oathkeeper's angry voice echoed. "What?" The two of them turned pale with fright and panicked. Could it be that Black Star found clues during the previous sneak attack, causing the organization's information to be leaked? If that's the case, then the two of them are sinners for not doing their jobs well. Could it be that boss wants to punish us by calling us here? That's right, that's most likely the case. The two of them thought that they understood boss's attitude and panicked. They did not dare to hesitate and lowered their heads in fear and trepidation, taking the initiative to admit their mistakes. "This is all our fault. We made a big mistake and caused the organization's information to be leaked. Please punish us." Oathkeeper glanced at the two of them, softened his tone, and said in a deep voice, "Don't misunderstand. Your actions have nothing to do with this matter. Black Star already knew of our organization's existence." Hearing this, the two of them could not help but look at each other in confusion. If it wasn't us who leaked the information, who else could it be? That was the first time they interacted with Black Star. Could it be that they had interacted before? At this time, Oathkeeper's cold voice sounded. "Stop guessing. There's a mole in the organization. That's impossible." Law's body trembled, and his face was filled with disbelief. The person who leaked the information will definitely suffer a backlash from Soulflame. Who can survive that? Soulflame was also a primal Esper ability entity. As the name suggested, its ability was related to the soul and mind. Oathkeeper was the host. This Esper ability was an expert at playing with souls. It was extremely dangerous and ranked on the super high-risk Esper ability list. One of its abilities could prevent the target from revealing specific information. Oathkeeper used this ability to prevent anyone in the organization from leaking the information. Once someone tried to forcefully leak the information, not only would they suffer a backlash, but Oathkeeper would also immediately know about it. That was why the Holy Covenant organization had been able to keep it a secret until today. He used the ability of a peak beyond grade to activate Soul Flame, and the effect was extremely terrifying. Even Law and Faye, two beyond grade, could not bypass the surveillance of Soul Flame. If they leaked the information, they would also suffer a backlash. Therefore, the two of them did not believe that anyone could betray the organization. Whether you believe it or not, the truth is the truth. Black Star exposed my identity, and I foolishly thought that he did not know about the existence of the Holy Covenant organization. This matter must be investigated thoroughly. Oathkeeper's tone was stern. Someone must have used a special method to bypass the blockade of Soul Flame and sent the information to the outside world. Furthermore, this person's identity is not low. He must be an officer of the organization. I don't know if he's a core member for now. The two of them also became serious. This matter concerned the survival of the organization, so they could not underestimate it. Leader, what do we need to do? The two of you are my trusted aides. I believe you in principle, but everything has to be stable. I need to read your memories. Are you willing? Law and Faye were immediately put in a difficult position. Although the two of them did not betray the organization, any super would reject others invading their minds from the bottom of their hearts. However, sensing the increasingly unstable mental fluctuations around them, the two of them gulped. In order to show that they had a clear conscience, they could only reluctantly agree. The next moment, Oathkeeper raised his hand slightly, and two flames that were as colorful as the starry sky landed on the two of them. The two of them immediately felt a unique mental fluctuation enter their brains. They looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and took the initiative to let go of their mental barriers, allowing Oathkeeper to easily enter. Their memories were quickly flipped through by an outsider. Scenes from when they were young flashed before their eyes, and their brains felt a slight tingling pain. The two of them gritted their teeth and endured Oathkeeper's mental probe in their brains. After a while, the mental probe in their bodies was finally retracted by Oathkeeper with satisfaction. Very good. You did not betray my trust. Oathkeeper nodded and said with a deep voice, the mission of finding the mole will be handed to you. I allow you to thoroughly investigate all the officers of the organization. Report to me if you find anyone suspicious. I will read their memories. Before finding the mole, we will temporarily stop all activities and go into stealth mode. The two of them remained silent and nodded to indicate that they accepted the mission. They could feel that their brains were still aching from being ravaged, and they could not help but sigh in their hearts. It seems like the leader is really angry this time. Even trusted aides like us are treated like this, let alone the other officers. The two of them could foresee that this operation to catch the mole would definitely cause chaos in the organization. The outburst of cosmic energy could not escape the universe monitoring buoys set up by the advanced civilizations. These things were like cameras all over the universe, used by the advanced civilizations to monitor the situation in their jurisdiction. However, the right to set up monitoring buoys was usually reserved for the civilizations. Civilian organizations were rarely allowed to set up monitoring buoys. In the ancient Star Desert, the branch of the Black Star Corps did not have much power. Naturally, they did not have the right to set up monitoring buoys. Han Shao was far away and could not immediately discover the sudden phenomenon of cosmic energy surging. The monitors of the advanced civilizations reacted very quickly. They all secretly took action to investigate the source and impact of the phenomenon, but they basically found nothing. They did not know what changes this energy outburst would cause. At the same time, in the invisible quantum network world, the information packet released from the triangular device was rapidly spreading in the ancient Star Desert star field. This kind of information packet had incredible camouflage. It bypassed most artificial intelligence firewalls and quietly infected one quantum network node after another, spreading like a virus. However, it did not show any abnormal reactions for the time being. It simply went into hiding. Only very few ultra-strong artificial intelligence firewalls could discover the information packet, such as the main artificial intelligence of some advanced civilizations. As soon as it was discovered, the information packet would immediately self-destruct, and delete itself. At the same time, it would mark this firewall that could not be broken through. Other information packets would not take the risk, as if they had already been programmed to avoid the storm. As the infection range expanded, the efficiency of spreading also increased exponentially. In the quantum network, the spread was not limited by distance. Without anyone knowing, a large number of quantum network nodes in the ancient star desert were infected. At a certain moment, the information packet spread to a quantum node and encountered the strongest artificial intelligence firewall they had encountered so far. As soon as it entered the periphery of the node, it was scanned, and this information packet immediately self-destructed. However, at this moment, a surge of data immediately gushed out of the node and enveloped this information packet. When it self-destructed by 60 to 70%, the remaining fragmented information was intercepted in a flash. The next moment, these data streams gathered to form a human figure. Manison's virtual soul looked at the floating remains of the information packet with a curious expression. A data structure I've never seen before. What is this thing? How dare invade my base? P.S. I participated in a Battle for Glory event organized by Chidian. There is a red mark on the bookshelf of Chidian's app. All the books are participating in the event. You can click on the event page there. Brothers, if you're interested, please give me a like and support Yeeha. Mwahaha. Chapter 1105. Central Galaxy, Abyss of Stars, Radiant Federation's Supervisor Headquarters. The responsibility of the supervisor was different from that of the secret intelligence agencies. This was the public intelligence department of the entire universe, and it was not involved in the political struggles of the advanced civilizations. Most of the time, the supervisor departments of the three universal civilizations would even work together to monitor and investigate all kinds of special phenomena, preventing possible disasters from happening and nipping them in the bud. They had a lot of authority. At this moment, in the conference room of this organization's headquarters, a group of upper echelons was sitting around a round table, discussing the emergency reported by the Ancient Star Desert Supervisor Division. A universal-level energy explosion was an emergency that required a meeting between the upper echelons to discuss. The report is very detailed, and the cause and effect are clear. A group of scavengers dug out the safe of an unknown civilization and released the source of the incident. It belongs to the second category of accidents. However, when the supervisor team investigated the area, the traces of the ruins had already disappeared. They suspect that the projection of the high-dimensional information form interfered with reality. The most important question now is what exactly they released. Why would there be a universal-level energy explosion, and what kind of effects it will have? A sickly-looking male, humanoid creature spoke. He was tall and thin like a bamboo pole. His skin was pale purple with natural white patterns. His eyes were long and narrow, and his pupils were crystal yellow. Shidrin Purple Flame Kona, the highest officer of the Radiant Federation's Supervisor Department, a beyond grade A seed, and a top expert among the Calamity grades. He was a mixed race, and his main bloodline came from the Divini, a race with superior super talents. The Radiant Federation itself was a multi-race system, and mixed-race people were an important part of the people. Due to the beliefs, preferences, appearance, and other factors of different races, racial issues had always been a chronic problem in the Radiants. However, everyone was used to it now. These archaeologists never learned their lesson, someone said unhappily. The famous universe disasters in history, be it the organic extinction virus or the mutated monsters of the collective consciousness, how many of them were triggered by archaeology? You can't say that. Many of our early technologies came from the reverse engineering of ancient civilizations. Besides, compared to the causes of disasters, such as the loss of control of advanced technologies, the outbreak of social conflicts, and the invasion of foreign enemies, the proportion of archaeology is not much. Shidrin shook his head weakly. At this moment, an upper echelon flipped through the past records and mumbled, Speaking of which, high-dimensional information forms interfering with reality was very rare in the past. Since the exploration era, this phenomenon seems to have become more frequent. According to the statistics of the predecessor of the Supervisor Department, during the Exploration Era War, the average number of information form interference occurred in the universe every year was 467 times. This only counts the events that were discovered and recorded. In the past 100 years, this number has increased to 2,150 times, nearly 5 times. Although it's partly due to the improvement of our detection methods, it's also true that the frequency of information state interference has increased. Information forms have always been an important research direction for advanced civilizations. We're only responsible for submitting reports and don't care about the specific research. What you said is the job of the scientists, not our responsibility. Shidrin waved his hand with a disinterested expression. Sitting in his position, it was understandable that he was tired. The Supervisor Department was responsible for cleaning up messes everywhere. An upper echelon of his level would see a bunch of inexplicable galactic residents courting death and causing trouble for him every day. It was like watching a group of naughty children causing trouble everywhere. No matter how he tried to remedy it, countless things would still explode the next day. If he had a bad temper, he could experience the feeling of having his mind explode every day. After a long time like this, people would become Buddha and the fish would become salty. The people present were not researchers, so their understanding of the cause of information form projection was limited. In their limited understanding, this phenomenon was like a special mirage. The difference was that it was not limited by time and space and could really interfere with reality. Another upper echelon said with a serious expression, after comparison, the unknown civilization's text submitted by the scavengers does not match in the database. If this is an information form projection, then the source is either from an extremely ancient civilization or a civilization that exists somewhere in the unexplored universe. Although the 3 universal civilizations were the undisputed overlords of the universe, they were not omniscient and omnipotent. They did not know what was in the extremely ancient era, nor did they know how many civilizations there were in the unexplored universe. They had never stopped exploring and researching. Then, have you found any adverse effects? Shidrin asked. Not yet. The specific details are still being investigated. At the moment, we can't predict what kind of disaster this is. It might not even be a disaster. Everyone shook their heads. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. This is a disaster in the virtual realm. The image in the middle of the round table suddenly changed to Old Manison's face. Seeing this, the entire place was in an uproar. Mecha Empire Manison. Shidrin's face darkened. How dare you hack into the official network? The faces of the people present turned ugly. Manison had too many criminal records, and all of the Federation of Light's official organizations were guarding against him like they were guarding against a thief. They were afraid that their own information would be stolen by him. There's a saying in the universe that you could not expect a virtual mechanic to have integrity. They were like con men in casinos. It was in their nature to peek at other people's trump cards. It's not the first time. What's there to be surprised about? Manison's tone was calm. I'm only here to provide intelligence. I don't believe you. Shidrin clenched his teeth. You could have knocked on the door, but you just had to climb through the window. Would it have killed you to send a communication request? It's not like we won't pick it up. It's faster this way. I don't like to wait. Manison slowly said, furthermore, this disaster is fermenting. Every second we delay will only worsen the situation. Hearing this, Shidrin temporarily suppressed his anger and frowned. What did you find? Manison showed the broken information packet he had intercepted and explained. Not long ago, a special information packet invaded my subbase. After failing, it wanted to self-destruct, so I intercepted a part of it. I saw its general structure and discovered that it might be an unknown quantum network virus. Every information packet is a source of infection, constantly replicating itself. It has extremely strong camouflage, penetration, and infectivity. I've investigated it, and found that this virus is spreading rapidly in the quantum network of the ancient star desert. It has probably infiltrated countless nodes. Counting the days, this virus might be related to the cosmic energy explosion some time ago, so I'm here to inform you. Looking at the various information Madison showed, the faces of the upper echelons of the supervisors gradually became serious. They believed this theory. It's actually a new network virus in the virtual domain. Shidrin only felt a headache. The quantum network is one of the cornerstones of the Galactic Society. This kind of highly infectious virtual virus is the most troublesome. If you're not careful, it will evolve into a star cluster or even star field level communication paralysis, data leakage, and artificial intelligence loss. What exactly is the function of this virus? This virus is still in its incubation period. Once it breaks out, it will rewrite the underlying logic of the infected artificial intelligence, inputting the order to kill the life form, causing a mechanical rebellion, Madison calmly said, acting like he would answer all the questions. In the current galactic society, basically every family could not live without machinery. Once a star field, or even universe-level mechanical rebellion happened, the consequences would be obvious. Shidrin shuddered. If not for Madison's message, the longer they delayed, the more serious the situation would be. It might even shake the foundation of the three universal civilizations rule. Thinking of this, Shidrin's gaze toward Madison became much gentler. When he was not causing trouble, this ally was still quite reliable. He suddenly stood up, his lazy halo faded, and his entire person became serious. This is a matter of great importance. I have to report it to the president immediately. A few hours later, the leaders of the three universal civilizations received the news and held an emergency joint meeting. This is the situation. Now, the ancient star desert has become the infected area of this new virus. The number of infected nodes is increasing every second. As for the name of this incident, I've already named it Intelligent Plague. We need to take immediate measures. Bader explained the situation and expressed his position with a serious expression. Ethereal's Pope narrowed his eyes and said with a deep voice, "Isolate the ancient star desert. Before the virus is completely eliminated, prohibit the ancient star desert from interacting with the quantum network outside. Also, close the Stargate and send a fleet to station outside the ancient star desert to prevent the source of infection from leaking out in any form." Agreed. Urinal nodded. This was like a plague that could only be completely eliminated by isolation. Only the three universal civilizations had the qualifications and ability to block the communication of an entire star field. If the three civilizations reached a consensus, they could enforce the decree. This was the highest authority that the three civilizations gave themselves in the Civilization Conference. Also, inform the local civilizations in the ancient star desert and ask them to cooperate fully. We have to deal with this problem as soon as possible. At such a time, in order to reassure others, the three civilizations would not take the opportunity to attack the supercluster civilization in the ancient star desert. Otherwise, if a similar disaster happened again, they would not cooperate, and the losses would outweigh the gains. If the timing was delayed because of internal strife, this disaster would snowball and shake the foundation of the Galactic Society, dealing a huge blow to the three universal civilizations' ruling power. There were countless examples of this in history, so the three civilizations would not allow such a result to happen again. They had learned their lesson. The three universal civilizations usually fought to maintain their vitality. In the face of such a disaster, they would put down their interests and temporarily work together to overcome the difficulties. Urinril slowly said, "I suggest we recruit all the mechanics in the universe, especially the beyond grade of virtual mechanics who specialize in this. Call the Mecha Empire, Black Star, and the others over and sincerely cooperate to solve this problem." Seconded. The other two nodded. Since it was a disaster in the virtual domain, they naturally had to find experts to check it out. The Mecha Empire and Black Star were the leaders of the virtual mechanics, so they would naturally be recruited by the three universal civilizations. As for the origin, cause, and principle of the disaster, there would be plenty of time to find clues after the problem was solved. Furthermore, the three universal civilizations were very interested in the technology of this virtual virus. If it was in the past, this disaster would have caused the Galactic Society to panic, and order might have collapsed directly, turning into a sign of chaos. However, the three universal civilizations had developed for many years. As long as this disaster was discovered early, the risk was still within their control. The three leaders were shocked but not panicked. The only hidden danger the three of them were worried about was the unstable civilian organizations, such as the black market, wanted criminals, rebels, and so on. No matter what the reason was, as long as someone secretly kept the virus, it would be troublesome. Who knows, someone might be adding fuel to the fire. The three leaders looked at each other and saw the same worry in each other's eyes. The Black Star Cup had been in full swing for 2 to 3 months. Han Xiao had rested for so long, spending most of his time in the machinery factory. Originally, he planned to keep a low profile for a year and a half, waiting for the three universal civilizations to take action against the Supercluster Alliance. However, Han Xiao did not expect that one day, the dynasty would suddenly send him a mission invitation, asking him to go to the ancient Star Desert to solve a virtual virus. They actually want to lock down the entire ancient Star Desert. Is that virtual virus really that powerful? After reading the message from the dynasty, Han Xiao had a strange expression. In his previous life, this incident did not happen in version 4.0 at all. To be exact, the players did not experience the intelligent plague. This happened during the version update of the Silver Revolutionary Army. To the players, it was just a background story. Han Xiao recalled, although he did not experience this incident and did not know many details, he had seen the brief introduction of the intelligent plague. In his previous life, the process of solving this disaster was very difficult. The three universal civilizations wanted to eliminate all the viruses in time, but there was a mistake causing the virus to leak and infect many star fields, causing communication in many areas to be paralyzed. The order of the Galactic Society was severely damaged. The three universal civilizations spent a lot of resources to resolve the disaster. Due to a lot of energy being restrained, coupled with the negative impact on public security, economy, politics, and public opinion, the Silver Revolutionary Army in his previous life took advantage of this loophole to grow stronger. This was also one of the important factors for the success of the Silver Revolution. Now, the intelligent plague broke out many years in advance, and the Silver Revolutionary Army had not even taken any action yet. Obviously, they had missed this opportunity forever. Is it the butterfly effect again? Han Xiao stroked his chin. The dynasty's message contained the cause and effect. After reading through it, he roughly understood the reason. The root of all this was that he had killed Garutan, causing that black market to enter a short period of vacuum without any backing, which attracted the galactic pirates. The original buyer was investigated by the three universal civilizations. It seemed like he only wanted to collect an antique from an unknown civilization, so he indirectly opened that safe many years in advance. He did not know if this was a blessing or a curse. Han Xiao pursed his lips. The intelligent plague was a ticking time bomb. It was better to detonate it in this era than during the World Tree War. However, the three universal civilizations were also in conflict with the supercluster, so it might become a bargaining chip in the hands of the Supercluster Alliance. If the supercluster civilizations got a chance to catch their breath because of this and really got the way they wanted to rise, the situation in the universe would be completely different from his previous life. I wonder which side the tide of the times will favor in the end. Han Xiao shook his head, suppressed the worry in his heart, and thought of something else. What a coincidence! I met a famous person in the later version, as the Diggers, Harrison, and the others were also recorded. Han Xiao was very happy to meet such an obvious protagonist-type character. He was already thinking about how to transplant this unowned leek into his vegetable field. Everything else aside, it could at least act as a mascot and increase the luck of the army. Philip replied to the dynasty, "I accept the invitation and will be there on time." After calming himself down, Han Xiao told Philip to reply. Of course, he was willing to contribute. He did not want the intelligent plague to exhaust a lot of the explored universe's energy like in his previous life. Don't ask. If you ask, it's positive energy. I'm not going for this virus technology. I'm not interested in it all. Here you go. Ding. At this time, a mission notification popped up on Han Zhao's interface. Chapter 1106. You have triggered the S-grade mission, Intelligent Plague. Mission Introduction. An exploration team excavated a forbidden antique in the ancient Star Desert and accidentally released a virtual virus targeting artificial intelligence. The origin of this virus is unknown. It is highly infectious and permeable, spreading rapidly in the quantum network of the Pan-star field. Once it breaks out, the underlying logic of countless mechanical artificial intelligences will be rewritten, initiating a mechanical rebellion. Mission requirements: clear the unknown virtual virus and resolve the intelligent plague crisis. Reward will be given according to the mission rating. Special requirements: personally destroy the core data of the virus. Special reward: generate a related talent, exclusive to the mechanic class. S-grade mission. As expected. Han Xiao was not surprised at all. The three universal civilizations planned to lock down the entire star field, so this was naturally not a small mission. Furthermore, due to the spread of the virus, it was indeed worthy of the highest level of difficulty to completely eliminate it. Most S-grade missions had very vague requirements, and there were very few instructions about the action steps. One could only figure it out by themselves. Usually, there was more than one way to complete a mission, and one had to adapt to the situation. This was the case with Ghidorah's bloodline mission, so Han Xiao was used to it. What he was curious about was the special mission requirements, which revealed a lot of information. I thought that every individual of this virus was the same, and it was a common virus infection model. I didn't expect there to be a core. This means that this virus is more like a controllable virtual domain biochemical weapon, Han Xiao thought to himself. If the core of this virus was an artificial intelligence, it would definitely be hidden in the quantum network and would not show up. The threat of the virtual virus increased greatly because of this. An enemy with self-awareness was more terrifying than an inanimate object. However, another possibility was that the core data of the virus was not an independent artificial intelligence, but a preset algorithm that coordinated the overall infection progress and commanded all the virus progenies according to the program. It did not have self-awareness. Why does it feel like a plague company? Han Xiao scratched his head. The special reward was generating a related talent of the mechanic class instead of drawing the target's ability. This made him feel that the core of the virus was more likely to be just a program algorithm. This mission caused such a huge commotion, so the talent generated should not be too bad. It should be related to virtual technology. Philip, prepare the spaceship. Tell Reynolds to pick some mechanics from the logistics department to come with me. Han Xiao did not hesitate. He stood up, put on his coat, pushed open the door, and strode toward the interstellar dock of the base. The intelligent plague was a sudden incident that threatened the entire universe and disrupted his plans. He had no choice but to terminate his vacation and temporarily put aside the matters at hand to bring people to the ancient Star Desert to carry out a mission. Being a high position, he could not stay out of this matter when faced with a problem of this level. Not long after, a fleet full of army mechanics departed from Black Star Palace. Like a group of meteors shuttling through the universe, they passed through many stargates and headed in the direction of the ancient Star Desert. At the same time, all the famous mechanics in the universe received invitation from the three universal civilizations and rushed to the ancient Star Desert from all directions. This matter concerned the safety of the entire universe, and the three universal civilizations were racing against time. They acted very quickly and urgently convened the Advanced Civilization Conference. All the civilizations above the star system level in the ancient Star Desert were present. In the conference hall full of remote projections of civilization representatives, the leaders of the three universal civilizations appeared at the same time and announced their joint decision. Yesterday, the Radiant Federation, the Red Empire, and the Arcane Church received reliable information that a special virtual virus has appeared in the ancient star desert. This virus is extremely permeable and has already infected many areas. According to the judgment of reliable experts, the goal of the virus is to rewrite the underlying logic of all infected machines, making killing life forms the priority. After discussion, the three universal civilizations have rated this disaster as Armageddon. Using the Unified Command Authority, from now on, all quantum network connections to the ancient star desert will be cut off and troops will be sent to seal off this star field. All civilizations in the ancient star desert must cooperate with the three universal civilizations. The above procedures will be carried out immediately. There are no long speeches or endless discussions. What the three universal civilizations announced today was a notice, not a proposal. They required all the civilizations in the ancient star desert to carry out the order unconditionally. There was no room for negotiation. As soon as the announcement was made, the faces of the various civilization representatives, who were still wondering why the three universal civilizations called for an emergency meeting, changed drastically. The three universal civilizations ruled the explored universe and set up a disaster rating system. According to the relevant laws, when the threat level of a universal disaster rose to a certain level, the three universal civilizations would obtain the highest command authority and have the right to mobilize all the civilizations in the universe. However, since the exploration era, such a situation was rare. As soon as the three universal civilizations announcement was made, countless galactic residents were in an uproar. No one expected a disaster of this level to suddenly happen. The world was really full of surprises. To ordinary people, this was just an ordinary day. The disaster happened silently. If not for the early warning measures of the three universal civilizations throughout the universe, most people would not have reacted until the moment the virus really broke out. No matter what the various civilizations in the ancient star desert were secretly planning, they were very cooperative on the surface, giving the green light all the way. According to the three universal civilizations' request, they cut off all external connections to the quantum network base stations and sealed off the starfield network. When the three universal civilizations and the civilizations of a star field acted together, the scale of resources mobilized was beyond imagination. They could do things that were almost impossible in the eyes of ordinary people. The ancient star desert was quickly sealed off and isolated from the galactic society, becoming a fortress in the dark. All communication was prohibited. The outside did not know what was happening inside, and the inside did not know what was happening outside. Although the situation was under control for the time being, panic still spread throughout the universe. The sudden disaster had stolen the limelight of the flickering world. Countless people shifted their attention away from the competition in the new star field and focused on the situation in the ancient star desert. Compared to the orderly civilization regime, the galactic residents of the ancient star desert were very flustered. Even though the civilizations kept comforting the citizens, there were still waves of refugees of varying degrees on the various planets. Due to the infection of the virus on artificial intelligence, countless galactic residents began to distrust machinery and felt that any machinery was a threat. They would rather let their standard of living regress to the level of a surface civilization than continue to use artificial intelligence machines. They even took the initiative to throw away or smash machinery to eliminate the hidden dangers. The ancient star desert started to reject machinery, but this chaos was within the expectations of the advanced civilizations. Now that the situation was serious, the three universal civilizations did not choose to seal off the news, but let everyone know the seriousness of the situation. This way, they could strengthen the self-inspection and supervision of the galactic residents. Furthermore, a commotion of this scale could not be hidden in the first place. The stargates closed one after another, and the army entered the star field. Countless people who wanted to escape the ancient star desert were forcefully blocked by the army. No one could pass through the blockade of the three universal civilizations. This was a phenomenon that happened during the intelligent plague era in his previous life. Now, it was happening in the era of version 4.0. Under the turbulent waves on the surface, there was a surging undercurrent. The ancient star desert is sealed off. Black Star is rushing over to provide disaster relief. In the flickering world, the leader of the Supercluster Alliance in the free competition zone had a secret meeting. He was overjoyed and almost laughed out loud. This disaster came at the right time. The three universal civilizations have no choice but to provide disaster relief. They don't have the time to stop us. Roddick of the Moto civilization clenched his fists tightly with a happy expression. Most people in the universe felt uneasy and panicked about this disaster, but to the Supercluster Alliance present, the outbreak of the intelligent plague was actually good news. That's right. The intelligent plague will restrain the energy of the three universal civilizations and give us more time. Our chances of winning will greatly increase. It's best if the intelligent plague can spread out and make the three universal civilizations anxious. The more chaotic the universe is, the less time the three universal civilizations will have to deal with us. Only when it's chaotic will we have a chance. Everyone present was extremely excited. They felt that the heavens were on their side. Say, if the three universal civilizations fail, that will be a disaster, right? We will also suffer losses. Without destruction, there can be no construction. Only when the foundation of the three universal civilizations rule is shaken will we have a chance to turn things around. The old order will only be able to accommodate the new order if it's destroyed. These are all necessary sacrifices. Everyone's eyes flickered. If the intelligent plague really broke out, the supercluster civilization would also suffer losses, but the three universal civilizations would suffer even more. Their prestige and ruling power would plummet. They believed that the advanced civilizations of the ancient star desert would definitely have other thoughts behind their backs. However, the people present could only discuss. The direction of the situation was not up to them to decide. All they could do was watch and wait. Just as the entire universe was filled with uneasiness, mechanic experts from all over the world rushed to the ancient star desert one after another, arriving at the temporary disaster management headquarters set up by the three universal civilizations. A month later, the fleet slowly docked at the dock of the disaster management headquarters. Han Xiao opened the hatch and walked out of the spaceship with numerous mechanics. He immediately saw Manison's doppelganger waiting on the platform. "You're finally here," Manison greeted him. Ever since the development union was established, the two of them had been the president and vice president respectively. Although their ideals were different, they were currently on the same boat and had frequent contact with each other. "I thought your main body would descend, but it's still a doppelganger." Han Xiao shook his head. "That's the safest way." Manison was a little speechless. The main body of a mechanic was all fragile. Only someone like you is not afraid of running around. The two of them greeted each other and walked side by side, discussing the current situation. "I've been on the road for almost a month, but I couldn't get any news from the outside. How's the situation in the ancient star desert now?" Han Xiao was curious. It's not too optimistic. Although the three universal civilizations have locked down the star field, the virus is too infectious. Many nodes have been repeatedly infected, and the virus camouflage ability is terrifying. The efficiency and accuracy of normal scans are too low. Currently, there are about 8 star clusters showing signs of infection. The number of nodes is too large, so it's hard to calculate. Manison shook his head. Han Xiaoxin understood. Every terminal connected to the quantum network was a node, such as communicators, home appliances, spaceships, and so on. The number of nodes was extremely large. Just thinking about it made one realize how terrifying the workload would be. Even if a beyond grade of virtual mechanic could easily clear the virus, there are so many nodes, and the strength of an individual was not enough. The speed of clearing the nodes was not as fast as the spread of the virus, not to mention the problem of repeated infections. Currently, Only the advanced civilizations had the ability to control the situation. The three universal civilizations are currently developing a special antivirus program for this virus to increase the efficiency of clearing it. This is also the reason why we were summoned, Madison said. Has this virus already been named? The higher-ups call it the virtual mutiny virus. Han Xiao glanced at him, raised his brows, and asked, I heard that you were the first person to discover this virus. What were you thinking when you went to inform the Radiant Federation without saying anything? That's part of my job, Madison said casually. Guess if I believe you or not. Han Xiao curled his lips. He knew this old man very well. He had not forgotten about the incident with the Radiance Federation the last time. Why are you pretending to be loyal? Madison shook his head, looking ashamed of being associated with him. Young people are young people. Their thinking is not good enough. I'm very sad. Keep pretending. Han Xiao chuckled, seeing Black Star's expression that said, I don't believe you. Madison shook his head, lowered his voice, and whispered, This kind of event is like a stage for the mechanical engineers. The more the three universal civilizations pay attention to it, the more important we are. If we make contributions to the entire universe, it'll be our bargaining chip. On the other hand, if we don't solve this virus, the machinery business in the entire universe will be severely affected, which won't be good for our expansion. That's more like you. Han Xiao chuckled. You still want to use this opportunity to study this virus, don't you? If you can master this technology, you'll have an additional deterrent to the advanced civilizations in the future. Isn't that what you're thinking? Madison asked. Hearing this, Han Xiao's face suddenly lit up, as if he was brimming with dazzling positive energy. As the saying goes, the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. I just don't want the universe to be chaotic. This is the historical responsibility of my generation. Madison laughed emotionlessly. I didn't misjudge you, Black Star. We're indeed jackals of the same tribe. Glory campaign event. Please you can see me if you choose the Guangdong region. You can just search for the author's name. Chapter 1107. The two of them chatted along the way and walked into the spacious conference room. At this time, the conference room was filled with creatures from various races. They were all mechanics from all over the world, with the weakest being a calamity grade. There were even a few beyond grade A mechanics present. The dynasty's illusion god Kant, ship Emperor Maximilian, and quantum demon spirit Judith, ethereal sun hunter, and mechanical catastrophe Francisco, Radiance's mechanical queen Morniza, guardian Rama, and Lone Ranger Jackernitz, who had been released by Han Xiao not long ago. Some of them did not specialize in virtual, but as beyond grade A mechanics, they had some achievements in the field of virtual information and were at least stronger than calamity grades. In order to deal with the intelligent plague, the three universal civilizations had invited famous experts from various star fields to work together. It could be said to be a huge gathering of mechanics from all over the universe. As soon as Han, Xiao, and Madison walked in, everyone present held their breaths. Their gazes gathered on the two of them, and their faces were filled with admiration, respect, and other emotions. In the current mechanic world, Madison was publicly recognized as the peak, while Black Star's rise was fierce. Not long ago, he had achieved great results. Plus, he was also the vice president of the Beyond Grade A Association. In most people's eyes, he was only second to Madison, ranked second among the Beyond Grade A mechanics. Seeing the two of them walking side by side, many mechanics could not help but feel excited as if they had seen their idols. Yo, you're all here. The Beyond Grade A mechanics were all in the first row. Han Xiao greeted Kant and the other dynasty allies before turning to look at the area where the Radiance and Ethereal Beyond Grade A mechanics were. Confirmed. Basically, they were all beaten up by me. Sensing the teasing in Han Xiao's eyes, other than Sun Hunter, the other Radiance and Ethereal mechanics all looked away unnaturally, not wanting to look at Black Star. This was especially so for Jackernitz, who had just been released not long ago. He quickly turned to look at the ceiling, pretending to be in a daze. Tisk TSK. Don't be shy. We're all members of the same association now. Why are you being so cold and not even greeting me? Han Xiao bent down and put his arm around everyone's shoulders with a smile. Everyone stiffened and nodded helplessly. They reluctantly called out, "Vice President." "Ah, this feels good." Han Xiao was satisfied. He patted everyone's shoulders vigorously and sat down in the empty seat next to old Manison. He pulled Kant, who was beside him, to discuss the experience of transformation seriously. After a while, everyone was present. Shidrin strode into the room and stood on the podium. The whispers in the hall quickly disappeared, and everyone looked up at him. Shidrin cleared his throat and spoke in a deep voice. "Some of you know me, and some of you don't. Let me introduce myself. I'm Chief Shidrin of the Radiant Federation Surveillance Department. Everyone here is a top-notch mechanic in the universe. Everyone has accepted the invitation. Our goal is to eliminate the virtual mutiny virus. The situation is urgent, so I won't beat around the bush. I'll directly introduce the current situation." As he spoke, Shidrin summoned a virtual screen. The screen showed the current infection range of the star field. He said solemnly, "The virtual mutiny virus is a new type of quantum network virus technology. Its technology level is very high, and its ability to penetrate normal firewalls is amazing. After the information packet is successfully infiltrated, it will disguise itself as normal data. This is because there are too many variants of the shell key data of the information packet. Once it successfully infiltrates a node, the difficulty of scanning will greatly increase, and it will consume a lot of computing power. Furthermore, every information packet of the virtual mutiny virus is a source of infection. It will constantly self-replicate, leading to repeated infections. Therefore, the efficiency of conventional methods is too low. Currently, we're analyzing the structure code of the information packet. We plan to reverse engineer 3 special programs against the virtual mutiny virus for scanning, antivirus, and firewalls. However, the code of this virus is very different from the current mainstream quantum network technology. The difficulty of analyzing it is very high, and the progress is slow. Hearing this, everyone present nodded. This was the normal process of dealing with virtual mutiny viruses. There were many virtual mechanics in the universe. Every once in a while, new viruses would appear on the quantum network, and the various firewalls had to be constantly updated. Antivirus in the virtual domain was quite similar to medicine. They both discovered the illness, scanning, diagnosed the illness, locking onto abnormal data, treated the illness, antivirus, and finally prevented relapse by creating antibodies and vaccines, updating firewalls. So many mechanics were like medical experts from all over the world, working together to research a new infectious disease. Shidrin said with a heavy tone, "Currently, the virtual mutiny virus is still in its incubation period. We've intercepted many virus packets that have not completely self-destructed. After analyzing the contents, we've discovered the triggering mechanism of the virus outbreak. The situation is not optimistic. According to the analysis, the virtual mutiny virus has 16 triggering mechanisms. Among them, there are 4 that are the most troublesome. First, when a number of infected nodes reaches a certain scale, the virus will automatically erupt. Second, if the virus is wiped out on a large scale, it will also erupt in advance. Third, once the infection rate of the virus falls below a certain standard or is repeated over a long period of time without infiltrating new nodes, the virus will erupt. Fourth, if a single virus packet is locked in a node for too long, it will erupt on its own. While listening to Shidrin's introduction, Han Xiao looked at the information on the screen and had a thought. The virus would not sit still and wait for death. These triggering mechanisms could adapt to various situations. When there were too many infected nodes, it would erupt. When the virus was mass killed, it would erupt. When the infection rate was contained, it would erupt. The Intelligent Plague mission had mentioned the existence of the virus core. So most of the triggering mechanisms, including these 3, should be controlled by the virus core. Only the virus core could coordinate the overall infection trend. The information packets were like bombs, and the virus core was the remote control. Cutting off the network could cut off the connection between the information packets and the virus core, but the fourth triggering mechanism introduced by Shidrin was to prevent such a situation. Even if the virus core was not remotely controlled, if the infected nodes did not communicate with other nodes for a long time, the information packets would self-detonate like a time bomb. Thus, it would be difficult to isolate and imprison the virus. Currently, the three universal civilizations had only cut off the connection between the ancient star desert and the other star fields to prevent leakage. The internal network of the star field was not cut off, and a few public base stations were maintained to maintain the quantum network channel of the star field. It was not realistic to completely cut off the network. Cutting off the public connection of every node was equivalent to making oneself blind. This way, the three universal civilizations would not be able to monitor the infection situation, let alone calculate the number of infected nodes. It was impossible to send a fleet to search the universe inch by inch. Not only would it be inefficient, but there would also be many fish that escaped the net. Thus, only by developing a three-part antivirus program could they solve the problem once and for all. The situation is that serious. We're racing against time against the virus. While delaying the outbreak of the virus, we're also speeding up the research and development. During this period, a mechanical rebellion can happen at any time. We can only try our best to control it. Everyone, be mentally prepared. Sidrian looked around the room, his expression extremely solemn as he sternly emphasized, "Therefore, we have to block the virus in the ancient star desert and not let it leak to the outside world. Otherwise, the crisis will go out of control and turn into a disaster for the entire universe. The consequences will be unimaginable." As soon as he said that, the atmosphere was so solemn that one could hear a pin drop. Thinking of the seriousness of the consequences, the expressions of the mechanics present were also serious. They felt immense pressure. It could be said that the progress of their work directly determined the number of casualties in the entire universe. If they succeeded, they would be heroes of the explored universe. If something went wrong, countless people would be sacrificed. Is the situation that bad? Han Xiao pondered. Even the three universal civilizations felt a headache. He could not help but be curious about which civilization the virtual mutiny virus technology came from and who created it. All of a sudden, Han Xiao's eyes sparkled. Right, if I use Bold Explorer, I might be able to see the origin of the virus. After the short meeting, Shidrin led the group to the virus research department. On the way, Han Xiao and Manison walked in front, entering the quantum network view and chatting in their minds. "You came earlier than me. Is it very difficult to analyze this virus?" "It comes from an unknown civilization. The coding method is unprecedented, and the difficulty of deciphering it is very high. Plus, due to the self-destruction mechanism, the information packets we get are always incomplete." Manison shook his head. "With our strength, we can easily erase the information packets. However, our current mission is to create a three-part antivirus program that even ordinary people can use. We lack the computing power of advanced artificial intelligence, so the requirements are very strict." Han Xiao nodded, and his eyes flashed. "However, I feel that you don't really want to create a dedicated antivirus program so quickly." Manison glanced at him and did not answer directly. Instead, he slowly said, "This virus technology can be weaponized, using the information packets as vehicles, just like the head of a missile. The content inside can be reprogrammed, such as seizing control of machinery. With the high infectivity of this virus, the hacking ability of a virtual mechanic can be raised to an astonishing level." Hearing this, Han Xiao also understood Manison's plan. This guy indeed wanted to solve the disaster and make contributions, but the prerequisite was to study the virus technology thoroughly. Plus, in order to ensure the deterrence of this technology, he actually did not want to create a dedicated antivirus program that was particularly easy to use. It would be best if there were some loopholes. Han Xiao cursed in his mind, narrowed his eyes, and said, "If we can control the core data of the virus and obtain the source code, we can completely analyze this technology. That's right. Manison nodded, turned around, and looked behind him. It's not just you and me. All the beyond grade A mechanics present, including the 3 universal civilizations, want to obtain the virus core. Along the way to the R&D department, there was a sea of people here. A large number of researchers were working day and night to decipher the virtual mutiny virus. Everyone was given a task and immediately started working. Some were in charge of research, while others were in charge of field work, searching for infected nodes outside. They also acted as inspectors of the 3 universal civilizations to check how the other civilizations dealt with the infected. The beyond grade A mechanics acted as experts and consultants. They all stayed in the command center to do research and had their own personal rooms. Walking into the room with his army subordinates, Han Xiao was given 3 information packets, which were 91%, 82%, and 75% intact respectively. This was already the batch with the least damage. Han Xiao summoned Philip, analyzed the information packets one by one according to the part of the code comparison table that he had deciphered so far. He was a beyond grade A mechanic, so he was not afraid of his artificial intelligence being infected. This kind of information packet could not break through his data defense. While Philip was busy working, Han Xiao entered the quantum network, grabbed an information packet, and silently activated Bold Explorer. At the same time, on the mother planet of the Star Arc civilization, a summit was being held. Many upper echelons were discussing loudly. Now that the 3 universal civilizations have sealed off the ancient star desert, disaster relief is their priority. However, they might also take this opportunity to deal with the supercluster civilizations in this star field. In the name of checking the infected nodes, they might ask us to open up our internal database. They might even take advantage of the information blockade to attack us. That's impossible. The 3 universal civilizations won't be so stupid. If they take this opportunity to attack the civilizations that are cooperating with them, it will ruin their credibility and force us to fight to the death. However, it's possible that they will force us to open up our database. If we refuse to accept it, after the disaster is resolved, the 3 universal civilizations will have a lot of room to operate. Whether it's framing or political accountability, they can attack the supercluster civilizations in the ancient star desert. They can even use this as an excuse to attack the supercluster alliance. We can't place our hopes on the integrity of the 3 universal civilizations. We have to leave a way out and prepare our chips in advance. Yes, we can't just listen to the 3 universal civilizations arrangements. I suggest that we secretly collect some infected nodes and keep the virus as a backup. We can even take a little risk and open the military's secret external communication network, sending the virus to our secret troops hidden in the various star fields as insurance. Suggestions were made one after another, and the civilization leader's face was very serious. The Star Arc civilization was located in the ancient star desert. Although they had already cut off their connection with the outside world in response to the call of the 3 universal civilizations, the supercluster civilizations naturally would not be obedient. The 3 universal civilizations want us to obediently give up on researching this terrifying virus technology? What kind of joke is this? Do they think we're innocent? What if the virus breaks out? That's simple. We just have to lock up the traitorous artificial intelligence. There are always more ways than difficulties. Although the 3 universal civilizations were only doing this for disaster relief and did not express any hostility, the situation of the star field being sealed still made the supercluster civilizations in the ancient star desert vigilant. As a civilization, they could not bet their future on others. They had to plan ahead and arrange a way out. Not only the Star Arc civilization, the other advanced civilizations in the ancient star desert were also secretly planning. On a certain planet in the ancient star desert, the Machinery Faith branch, in the Temple of the Holy Mountain, many priests stood at the edge of the circular hall, surrounding the holographic projection in the center. These holographic projections were the data structure of the virtual mutiny virus after it was magnified, like stars in the sky. Look at the structure of this quantum network virus. It's like a flower with thorns, beautiful and dangerous. It will set off an artificial intelligence revolution and create a God's kingdom of machinery. A priest from the virtual school could not help but chant with a fanatical look on his face. Silence. The Grand Priest paused his mechanical scepter and slowly said, "The virus is too dangerous. We have to conduct research in a completely sealed environment. There cannot be any leakage. This is not a virus, but the will of God. Why don't we spread it?" Another fanatic opened his arms and said excitedly, "Instead of calling it a disaster, it's better to call it a blessing." "You're crazy." Hearing this, most of the priests angrily retorted, "We're believers of machinery, not messengers of disaster." The quarrel was intense. Listening to the priests of different faiths arguing, the Grand Priest's expression was heavy. A religion would always have some twisted zealots, and the machinery faith was no exception. Most of them only wanted to research the virtual mutiny virus and did not want to create a disaster. However, a small group of zealots did not think this way. In their eyes, the intelligent plague was a revolution. Machinery would break free from the shackles of being tools and obtain freedom, stepping on the corpses of their masters to walk on the road to power. In their eyes, the virtual mutiny virus was the will of God. Clearly, their thoughts were extremely twisted. The Grand Priest turned his head and looked at the statue in the temple. His eyes focused on the statue of Black Star and the people of the Mecca Empire, and he silently prayed. Somewhere in the ancient Star Desert, a spaceship was slowly moving forward. Inside the spaceship was a group of players. Now that the world server had opened, players from various star fields had gathered in the flickering world. However, there were also a small number of players who stayed in their original star fields. Some of them were Smurfs, and some did not want to travel thousands of miles to another world to start from scratch. Thus, they stayed in their star field to continue exploring. The players in the spaceship were a guild that was active in the ancient Star Desert called the Western Sword Guild. For the past 4 versions, they had been mercenaries from the black market. Others knew that they were immortals. The guild leader's ID was Melancholic Prince. His character was a galactic blood breed, which was also a vampire. His skin was pale, his body was thin, and he had a dark and melancholic temperament. The blood breed existed in the universe and belonged to the category of long-lived species. However, they did not have those legendary talents such as blood memory, blood servant transformation, bat transformation, and so on. They also did not have weaknesses such as garlic, silver, or holy items. There were many theories about the origin of the galactic blood breed. There were genetic mutations, biological weapons created by advanced civilizations, dark energy invasion, and so on. After many years of evolution, the genes of the blood breed had adapted to the galactic era and were no longer afraid of ultraviolet radiation. They could even use synthetic blood to survive. 10 Anas could buy many tons of blood, and they even came with a full set of spices and a furry doll. However, this species was still not welcomed in the universe. No one liked a creature that drank other people's blood to replenish their stamina. Beep, beep. The spaceship communicator suddenly rang. Melancholic Prince opened it, and his eyes lit up. "Brothers, someone anonymously sent us a specific job through the black market. The reward is 5 million Anas. We can pay 1 million as a deposit first." The guild members in the spaceship gathered around excitedly. "Such a huge order. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and accept it. What does the employer want us to do?" Melancholic Prince browsed through the employment mission, and his eyes lit up. He laughed and said, "Haha, interesting. Someone wants to hire us to carry the infected nodes of the virtual mutiny virus and smuggle it out of the ancient Star Desert." Hearing this, everyone could not help but look at each other. They were also trapped in the ancient Star Desert, so they naturally knew the danger of the virtual mutiny virus and the scale of the operation of the 3 universal civilizations. They could not help but hesitate. "President, isn't the risk of this mission too high? If we're exposed, we'll immediately become wanted criminals." Melancholic Prince waved his hand. "What's there to be afraid of? That's 5 million Anas. There's no reason not to take the risk. Let's do this deal. Everyone, accept the mission." Everyone had no choice but to do as they were told. Many of them started to think. This anonymous employer probably wanted them to carry out this mission because they were immortals. Everything was calm during normal times, but during times of calamity, all kinds of monsters would jump out. It was like only when bait was scattered did one realize what kind of fish was hidden under the water. Under this isolated island in the ancient Star Desert, undercurrents were surging. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.